Ekbar, would you like to be co-host today? Give you that option. Ekbar, would you like to be co-host today? Oops. You are now, anyways. If you don't want to be, that's okay. Um, okay, let me get the streaming going here and. Okay, finally, welcome everyone to the Keshe Plasma Reactor Group for Wednesday, December 11th, 2019. This is a broadcast of the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute Education Department, part of the Public Teachings in English, and I am the host today, Rick Crammond, and we are ready to begin today's workshop. Sorry for the shaky beginning there. I had some technical difficulties, but I think we got it under control now. And I think we're ready to begin. So I usually start off by asking if anyone has something they'd like to present or discuss or bring up. Otherwise, interject as a topic of some sort. So we have something to work with here.
Mashfaq Rick.
Hi, Mashfaq. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm good.
So I have a very basic, I want to start with very basic because Mr. Keshe talked about something very interesting. I think in the last one or the one before. Has anybody tried understanding MagRav? That was his question.
Has anyone tried
understanding what MagRav is, the MagRav or device?
Right. Yeah, you seem to indicate that we didn't get it somehow.
We didn't get anything. I mean, there's a lot in there. But I mean, even before MagRav, I want to start something very simple. Actually, this is where MagRav starts really. Understanding magnets, because in our physics that is taught in universities, we don't understand magnet. So let me start with magnet. We will go into it. I mean, I'll log in from, there's a lot to understand here. So
can you
we talk about the North Pole and the South Pole of magnet, right?
Do you want to use a whiteboard or something so we have some
I will
visual?
use the whiteboard and let me go. I mean, we start talking and then I log in from my computer and then we go further. But let's start with a simple one. we have the planet Earth, which has a north and a south. And the magnet's north and south is the opposite, right? Because we say the pole that faces north pole of the Earth is the north of the magnet, and the south pole of the Earth is the south pole of the magnet, right? That's what how we.
Yeah, but that's not technically true, apparently. The North Pole is actually the south magnetically for some strange, weird reason due to the naming nomenclature and so on.
So which is the correct south pole of a magnet? You know, the entry point, as we understand in plasma science. Which one is the entry point, the North Pole or the South Pole? On planet Earth, it's the South Pole, I think.
Well, I think the correct answer is both, because they both have an entry and exit, depending on how you viewpoint it. In a way.
But one is dominant. The gravitational is entering through one, which is dominant on one side, and exiting from the other end. And so the magnetical is entering from the opposite end, dominant in the other direction. So this is how
I believe what we call the North Pole of the planet is actually the entry point, because that's where the northern lights are.
Yes, that's what I thought. And this is so the Earth, in case of Earth, the South Pole, well, what we call the South Pole, which our magnet gets attracted to, is the entry point for our planet, right?
Well, in a way, but if you look at the big picture of the magnetic fields of the Earth, then it's got like these pinchers that come around and poke into the poles of the Earth. And it's almost like it's the same field. I don't know if it has a north and south to it in terms of it's just a sort of a circular magnetic field with the core of the Earth as part of it. So
there is a polarity. Planet Earth has a polarity which is demonstrated by our iron magnet.
It
does have a polarity. Our planet.
Does it have is the maggrav fields the same as the iron polarity fields? I wonder about that.
The thing is that, the nearby, when we have, let's say, a nanomaterial, if there is a flow, then all the fields are flowing in one direction. And then, so nearby field, let's say the field of the iron level field, which we call our magnetic field. So the field of the copper is also affected, because if you take a nanowire, our regular nanowire, which is copper, the magnet is attracted to it more than a regular copper wire, but not as much as an iron wire. So you can test this. This is actually easy to test. You just bring a magnet next to a nanowire. Actually, it's attracted more to it than just plain copper wire.
Yeah, you can put it on a piece of styrofoam in a bowl of water, and you could tell then whether it's attracted, repelled, and so on with the test.
It is demonstratable. So the field flow, whether it's the field flow at the level of the iron level or copper level or any other level, it has a direction to it. So the Earth has an axis, and there is a field flow, and there is a direction to it, which is what makes the dipole. Earth is a dipole too, just like magnet. And so let me start logging in from because there is a lot to talk about. Even our very humble magnet has a lot more to.
Mosfik, look the explanation of Gatwa about magnet. Understanding from Dr. Gatwa about Armen, when he explained how it's working with the magnet from understanding of Mr. Keshe. It's very beautiful. It's 2 months ago, but I provide this
you can
link.
find a link and put it in the chat. That'd be good.
Yes, okay.
Do you remember what was the explanation? You can say it now, I think, for all of us.
It's not only the positive or negative or not sold and sold pole. It's both, because when you have only one, no, let's say it's repelling or it's attract, but its position, it's explaining with electron and proton in the atom, and making the example with magnet. I search this link and I put it down.
Rick, do you remember what Armin said, or have you seen that explanation?
I don't remember specifically on that one.
Okay, let me see. I log in. Can I log in? I'm having difficulty logging in from my
Let me.
computer. Why am I not able to? All right. Oh, my caps lock is on. I see. Okay. So let's start the whiteboard. Let me log in from my computer, and we'll start the whiteboard. Yes, one of the things that's true is that there are, in case of MAGRAV, we have a two-way flow, which is different from what our traditional thought of how the magnetic field is. So let's see. Okay, I'm logged in. Let's start. I will share the whiteboard.
Do you want me to show? I could show an image from Wikipedia of the. There's a computer simulation.
Okay, go ahead and let's start slowly.
Shows the Earth's magnetic field, supposedly, like we're talking about, and then we have an image to kind of go off of. Just a second here. And I'll make it bigger. And share. Okay, this is from Wikipedia. It's just the Earth's magnetic field, and it gets into all the ins and outs of it, about how it reverses every several 100,000 years. The North and South poles abruptly switch places, and this is the simulation in the normal polarity between reversals. So we see even when it's normal, it doesn't really look all that normal to me. I mean, look at all the, it looks like a ball of yarn with two different colors of yarn that kind of got all mixed up together in places. Like, what are all these?
What is the color? signify here, the color of the yarn?
Well, it says the lines represent magnetic field lines. Blue when the field lines points toward the center, and yellow when away. So
Okay, so the south is the entry point then.
Well, the blue, the field points point toward the center.
Yes.
So they would be going toward the center, going in at the top and then out at the bottom.
Oh, okay, so it's the opposite.
I think so.
Okay. So which is the end? I mean, from our plasma point of view, which side is the entry point and which one is the exit? This is what I want to get it straight. Which one is north, which one is south?
Well,
when we talk about when Mr. Keshe talks about it, there is a south is the entry and north is the exit. So when we look at the planet, is what we call the north of the planet, is that the entry point?
It's like it's not the same. Mr. Keshe is saying it's like a entry and exit, north and south. Because Mr. Keshe is saying it's like, saying it's like a ray. It's both in same direction, in all direction.
Yes, I understand that part, but there is a dominant flow in one direction.
Like if you had a compass, for
magnetical and gravitational always flows together. So one is going one way, the other is going the other way.
If you had a compass, though, the compass would tell you the predominant flow, like you're saying. You'll say it'll point toward where the northern polarity is, whatever. Except when you're at the very top here at the North Pole, the compass it can go around in circles at times because the fields are vertical.
So what I want to know is that we have the magnet, which is pointing to the geographic north of the planet. So which one is from plasmatic point of view, which one is the South Pole? Is the magnet South Pole the South Pole, or the planet South Pole the South Pole? So this is what I want to be clear about.
I think
that they two are opposite. I mean, if we hold two magnets, south and north.
I think it mentions it here. It says, historically, the north and south poles of a magnet were first defined by the Earth's magnetic field, not vice versa, since one of the first uses for a magnet was as a compass needle. So a magnet's north pole is defined as the pole that is attracted to the Earth's north magnetic pole. Okay, so the magnet, the compass has its north pole of the compass that points toward the north is actually the south pole of the magnet of the compass.
This is good.
Right, so it says, since opposite poles attract, the north magnetic pole of the Earth is really the south pole of its magnetic field, the place where the field is directed downward into the Earth.
Oh, so the north magnetic pole of the Earth is the entry point. Is that what they're saying here? The sentence you just read, Rick.
It does say that since opposite poles attract, the north magnetic pole of the Earth is really the south pole of its magnetic field, the place where the field is directed downward into the Earth. So he's saying that it goes out what we call the south pole of the Earth and in what we call the north.
So the magnet is correct. Our magnet is the correct thing, and the Earth is the opposite then, right? From what this sentence said.
All depends on your perspective.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not clear on this. I read all of these things, and
I just found out about this a couple of years ago, and I went, "What? You're kidding? All these
Yes,
years on
exactly.
North and South poles, it's all turned around. This is ridiculous. How much more of our science is so upside down? I mean,
Yes,
it's
exactly.
exactly the opposite. And what are we doing? Waiting for the poles to change to make everything okay again? Finally, the poles have shifted. Now we can make all of our calculations work, and now we can go to space. Well, duh. I don't know. It's a very funny thing. But we could look at this again. Maybe it's the global definition of the Earth's field is based on a mathematical model. If a line is drawn through the center of the Earth parallel to the moment of the best fitting magnetic dipole, the two positions where it intersects the Earth's surface are called the north and south geomagnetic poles. If the Earth's magnetic field were perfectly dipolar, the geomagnetic poles and magnetic dipoles would coincide and compasses would point toward them. However, the Earth's field has a significant non-dipolar contribution, so the poles do not coincide and compasses do not generally point at either. So that gets even more
Convoluted.
And if we look at this sort of the drawing here of the Earth's magnetic field, this is what it looks like when it gets distorted by the pressure of the sun beating upon the field. Basically, it turns into this sort of spider-shaped with a series of kind of rings, concentric rings. And you can see where the north and south, it's basically sort of like a pinch point. We've got the fields almost in the figure 8 configuration going through. So,
Which is identical to when we have iron dust on top of magnet. This is exactly how it looks too.
Well, it is. And if you were to have another magnet kind of pushing on the magnet where the filings were, then it would start to give this sort of spider-shaped configuration, apparently. Okay, so do you want to carry on there then?
Okay, let's, we have to clear up which one is it, but let's assume that we know that South Pole, and let's assume that the magnet South Pole is the correct one. We'll discuss on that assumption for now, because we don't have a clear-cut idea which South Pole is the correct South Pole, for now at least. But we can start with that assumption and work with that.
This is a new picture I haven't seen before.
Ah, what is that?
Well, this is supposedly the, what do they call it again? Whoops, I lost it there. The core, basically, the way the magnetic fields are generated from the actual motion of the conducting fluid of the cores. On the inner, there's an inner core and outer core we see here. And there's rotation and rotation and rotation. And that's what they figure makes the magnetic field. Of course, it could all be just made up in somebody's head. Pardon me?
Mr. Keshe's description on the patent is really very clear about how the fields are generated.
He talks about an inner core and outer core, but differently than this. And the plasma fields make such a difference in the whole configuration here. This looks very linear and kind of grade 1 kind of picture. Anyway, interesting.
Yeah. And the way the various material come together, Mr. Keshe's description is much more precise in terms of how things start to form and how the various surfaces start to form. And it's very similar to, when we look at planet Earth, we have various layers of the atmosphere, ionosphere, Van Allen belt, et cetera. And it's the same thing. We have gradation of like field boundaries at very specific point. And this is exactly true from my test with the reactor. There is no difference. You can very distinctly feel, and they're different. There is, and the lines that we saw in the magnetic field that you showed earlier, you have very distinct lines, which you can feel from the reactor. And one of them being our Earth's surface, and the others are upper layers of atmosphere. And so that's actually, you can see it in the experiments. And even with like, when we do it with like an iron magnet, we have those rings, which we can put the iron dust on it on a piece of paper, and we see those. And the dust are attracted to these lines.
Mm-hmm.
So the basic idea is that, these lines are very distinct in the sense that, so things are attracted to these lines, which are the iron dust. But between the lines, the dust don't go. So there is definitely magnetical or repulsion going on between the two lines. And the point that the dust are attracted are the gravitational points. So the lines are essentially defining the gravitational centers. And the separation between the lines are magnetical, much like how the molecules are separate but yet attracted to each other. So even the magnetic field lines are very interesting in terms of gravitational and magnetical. Am I making sense?
I believe so. Like in a diagram like we see here, we see these lines, and we assume, in science, they more or less assume that there's an even gradient between each of these lines. In other words, it's not, it's supposed to be, these are indicating just where the certain, maybe 10, 20, 30, 40, kind of the different lines, but what's in between. And it turns out that it is more or less like lines. It's there are lines of force, and in between there's less force, and it's sort of a tubular. There's a picture that shows the tubular magnetic fields of the Earth that's been quite popular recently.
The interesting part is that when you play with magnet, if you put up a piece of paper and the iron dust only get attracted to the lines, you cannot have the iron dust in between the lines. So there is a repulsion in that area. It's very clear. So the lines are real in the sense that those lines are actually gravitational, indicating gravitational point or gravitational line for the iron dust. But in between areas, you have a definite repulsion so that things get to these lines, either this line or that line, but it can't stay in the middle. Same like we have in this picture, we have these definite lines.
That's right, and it's also seen in the Sapphire project, which looks very much like this. They have the electrode would be the Earth, and in a vacuum chamber, and it produces these series of usually 6, 7, 8 layers, very, very defined layers, and it'll have really, really intense temperature, more intense off the surface of the electrode than on the surface of the electrode, and in various layers. So, and in between it'll be less temperature, and then it'll be more again, and less again, and more again. Very, very interesting double layered type phenomena in this plasma field.
And this is the same thing. I mean, it's true for magnet, and it's true for the reactors I built. You see these distinct lines, boundaries. You can feel them. I mean, it's very distinct.
Yes, and it happens in electrostatic or electric fields the same as magnetic fields too. It's the same type of phenomenon.
Either way, it goes either way.
even the waves that come off the bow of a boat is very similar.
Yeah, it's the same thing, exactly. It's kind of like the bow of the boat you just mentioned. It's actually a interesting phenomenon, because if you, it's a sort of like a 2D projection of this phenomenon on the surface of the water, and since it is dynamic, they interact, and you have the bow breaking. But if you think in terms of like rings, 2D projection of rings that are expanding, it actually explains how the waves go up and down and how this V shape forms around the boat. It's very interesting to work out the detail of the flow of the waves in terms of gravitational and magnetical. I actually sat down and did it, and actually it matches up perfectly what we see as the boat goes.
And there's something about the angle is always exactly the same with the
exactly the same. There is, and the interesting thing is that you can do this experiment. It's very easy to do. In a bathtub, if you have a boat, you push one boat and you form this wake. And then you put something little small, which at the back of the boat, it will move. So essentially the magnetic field that you are creating around the boat in 2D is affecting. So although you just put something and it moves forward. So the surrounding magnetic field also create the flow, electron flow. So the magnetical and gravitational are together. So the surrounding field that gets created because of the motion of the boat can affect the motion of something which you just dropped there. So it works either way. So they are all, as Mr. Keshe says, the either way. So you have when you have the magnetical, the gravitational has to exist. The same way when you have the gravitational, you have to have the magnetical together. So this is I mean, you can do these tests in the bathtub. It's so simple, but I mean, looking at it from the perspective of magnetical and gravitational field is very interesting. It validates most of the things that we are learning in plasma science. Even, doing simple experiments with a bathtub or magnet, and you don't have to have reactors really to do these things. Should I draw it, or am I clear?
Yep, I think it's time for you to take over with the whiteboard there.
Okay.
I'll just note in passing, there's more and more of these pictures of the Earth's magnetic field available because of all the tests they've been doing with satellites to actually measure the fields and so on. They're getting amazing data out of all that.
So let's start with a very basic thing. We have this right-hand rule, right? Where something, electric current flows in one direction, right? And then we have, you can say it creates the magnetic field according to the right-hand rule, like this.
Yeah, well, we might have to figure out which way the current flows. Does it go from
Yes,
negative
put that
to
right-hand rule. Hold your hand with the thumb pointing the way the dark blue line is, and your finger wraps around the thing. And then you have the right direction.
How do you know that the current goes in that direction, though? That you're
well, this is the magnetical. If we assume this is a magnetical, so you can actually, the gravitational is this
I got you.
This
Okay.
way. And similarly, there is an equivalent flow in this direction. So both flows exist together. I mean, before we used to think only just one flow, but both flow exist. One is this way and one is the other way. Now, the interesting part is this, and I've worked on it a little bit, so I'll just say this is, but here we have a flow. So if there is a flow here, it creates a ring around here too. So it goes on, the story goes on, and actually you can work out, and the maggrav design automatically falls out of looking at it carefully, the spring design. But we can slowly get through this. But the basic idea is whenever there is a flow. Okay, I can't talk now. Sorry about this. You can start commenting a little bit. I have to, because
You
of
need
the.
a moment of silence at your end, apparently. Yes. Okay. Well, thank you, and we'll carry on. So, anybody have any comments? I put the link in the chat there. Let me put it also in the live stream and YouTube for Armin's video that was mentioned by Dan regarding the maggrav fields. Let's see, where are we here? Put it in YouTube.
I'll also draw a magnet.
And then Facebook, or sorry, live stream. No Facebook today. Oops, it's already done. Okay. Trying to see how long that video was of. 2.5 hours. Okay, well, people have to review that on their own, I guess. Okay, we have a bar or cylinder type magnet.
Yeah, so this is a magnet. I would use the sort of the circular magnet because it's much easier to understand than the square magnet. The square magnet throws you out a lot.
Yeah, Keshe likes to use the ring magnet a lot too.
Yeah, the ring magnet gets even better, but we'll come to that. It's good. So
I don't want to jump ahead too far.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
We won't get
it's
too
very
deep here.
So you
One
have
step
this.
at a time. Go ahead.
You have this flow, circular flow, and the flow is going through the magnet. This end of the circle is kind of squashed. Think of it that way. And so we have these fields which are flowing from, let's say, north to south. So there is this arrow, right? And now if we take a piece of grounded wire and move through these lines, intersect this line, we have an electricity in the wire. We can test it easily. It's the reverse of, if you flow electricity and you have magnetic field.
Well,
and
wait a minute. Are you saying this is just a magnet and you put
this is a regular magnet, and if you take an electric wire and if you
just
intersect
hold
it,
if you just hold it in the field, you won't get an electrical response out of it.
Yeah, you have to move it. Yes,
you have to move it. This is the secret.
Yes, exactly.
And this is a very, very strange idea in a way, because
when
you think about it, that magnet's already moving at 1,200 miles an hour on the surface of the Earth, if you're at the equator, let's say. Plus the Earth is moving, plus the sun is moving, solar system. It's all moving already. How come just holding the wire in the field, why doesn't it generate already? Why do we have to move it a little bit back and forth in our local time space in order to generate that power? I wonder.
Because both are moving at the same speed. You have relative motion.
Yes. But
that's the part that's
a strange one. It doesn't really add up somehow. But anyway, carry on. Yes, so I'll go with this.
The relative motion between the wire and the magnet is the important part for the electron flow to happen.
That's right.
And so if we assume these fields are moving along these blue lines, we actually have the same situation of there is a field being created around these lines as well, just using the right-hand rule, the same thing. And this field can keep, this is a magnetical field, and this keeps the two lines separate. These are the gravitational line, and the thing that we were talking about before, the two lines are always separate.
Yeah, I've got a question for you though before we continue about this.
Okay.
If you were to take this cylinder magnet that you have here, and if you had a line going right through the middle as the axis and rotated it on that axis,
then you will have current too. If you rotate the magnet, keeping
no, that's the thing. You won't. If you have a wire, a coil around that magnet rotating on that axis, there's no change in the magnetic field. Those lines that you draw do not rotate with the magnet.
Yes, yes.
So that you can't get power out of it that way. You'd have to turn it on its other axis, and then have the north and south alternating back and forth. And then if you had a coil beside it, you'd have the change in magnetic field that's required. But just to rotate it on its vertical axis, strangely, it doesn't work unless you have another magnetic field interacting with it in a certain kind of way, like the polar motor idea.
Let's do something else. Remember the picture of the iron, that field down microscopy picture that I showed you before? In one of the surface of the iron.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you, I don't know whether I can show it again. If you remember the picture, there were these fields, circular fields, but there were lines in the middle. And so you have channels for the flow of fields in that picture, which are straight lines actually in that, which has the hexagonal symmetry. And so if you rotate, those lines do not change. So the field flow does not change at all. You are still flowing through the same line. Am I making sense? Even if you rotate, your direction of flow does not change.
Right.
So that's why there's no change in the field.
I presume you're having an interruption there, Mashfaq. We can't hear you. Your mic's off.
Okay, can you hear me? I got interrupted a little bit. Hello?
Yep, I hear you now.
Okay. All right. So any question or before we go any further, let me just or any thoughts, anybody else's comment? It would be nice to have some comments, because these are very basic things. I'm interested very much in basics. Otherwise, you can't do anything.
Yeah, and this is like what we could call the matter level magnetic fields in a way. But you're trying to get to something else here, right?
Yeah, I want to get from here to the non-matter level.
Okay, how do we make the jump?
As I drew the green line, when we have the dark blue line moving, let's look at the first picture where an electron is moving through a piece of wire. Then you have the magnetic field, which is a light blue line, along with the red lines, which is the gravitation, the magnetical side of it. And so we have, those are invisible. And then there is the green rings around it, which is also invisible. So think of these as turbulence, as Mr. Keshe talked about it in the patent. How do you create turbulence? These field flow create turbulence. And so let's pause for a moment. And does anybody have any question? And so we are going to the invisible part when we think about the other field flows that we are talking about right now, the light blue one and the green one. Does that make sense? It's the first step towards the what do you call it? Invisible part of the field.
Well, by turbulence, you mean like there's eddy currents and
so
eddies that are happening.
You can think of these in terms of fractal, but it's dynamic again, because you have the light blue line, and around that it creates field again. And what I'm talking about here is actually from my experiments. So I know this happens.
And also, every time you have a flow, there is a counterflow that occurs. And
yes, that's
the same
true
as in a river. Yes. I think we talked about that before.
Yes. And which we, in our popular terminology, called resistance. Or, what do you call it? There are several terms for it: eddy current, back EMF, all
backflow, back eddy. If you're a kayaker, then there's special names for those conditions. Hello, come in, Moshfek. I think he needs a minute there. Anybody else with any comments while we're waiting here? Oh. Still there, Moshfek? I think he might need a little more time.
Rick, will you have universe this body enhancement unit, this egg? Do you have one close by? I think they will be in Toronto. Are you on the other side, or on which side of Canada you are?
I'm on the far left west side of Canada. Yeah, it's several thousand miles from Toronto. But yeah, apparently that might happen. We'll have to wait and see. First, there has to be production, and then there has to be all the cards come together properly. But that would be nice. It'd be great to have a unit on the West Coast, or at least one, preferably several. There should be several, and there should be one within 100 miles of anyone. That would be nice.
Sorry, I got disconnected a bit.
Alrighty. Are you back and connected?
Yes, I think I'm back. So anyway, so this is really the first step of kind of developing an understanding. And now Rick would like this one. This magnet that I drew. Now, if we make it a ring magnet, let's make it a ring magnet. Different color. Let's keep the colors. now what is happening here? If we draw the field line again, we're going to change the color. Keep the color. Remember the what you call it, those rings that you had that you made torus with? So the difference between the magnet without any hole in there is that as you have a hole in the magnet, you are moving those rings apart, like you're putting a stick in the middle. And those spring type of things, what do you call it? Those slinky type, what's the name of those things? Those metal thing which had 13 rings.
They're a toroid.
Yeah, toroid. So you have a same thing with in case of the magnet, like solid magnet, you have those toroids kind of squashed together. When you make a ring magnet, you are pulling apart the toroid, so you have a hole in the middle. Make sense?
Yes. Yes, exactly.
So the ring magnet is getting more interesting because you're creating a toroidal field. And so when you make a toroidal field, you have something in the middle that is pushing the hole, creating the hole. So, so when there is a toroid, there is a force in the middle that's pushing this apart. And if we look at the cross section of a toroid, let's draw the toroid. So which is actually the vortex, the inverse of the toroid. So when we create toroid, we are creating something very strong here, which is also a field flow. There is, if the toroids are moving this way, let's say toroids, they're moving in opposite direction, then you have an entry here and an exit here. Does that make sense? But in order to have a sustaining, toroid can sustain itself because, as you know from our two-dimensional experience in the bathtub, they're rotating in opposite direction. The toroid, the inside and the outside. So actually, the toroid is self-sustaining, and the vortex that it forms as a result of it is also self-sustaining. Am I making any sense?
Yes, and then that way what goes out comes back in a way too. So
Yeah.
like it comes out, comes back around, and what started out as an exit, say particle or exit field, comes around, it becomes an entry field. So whether something is if you were to point at a particle and say, are you part of the entry or part of the exit? It would say yes, because
Yeah.
it gets to experience all of those phases depending on the period of time where you happen to be measuring.
So and so you can think of this. So what you are creating. Let's get back to. I'll delete most of it. Let's see. Let me clear it up because you mentioned about this boat. Let's work on this boat phenomena because this is, to me, is very interesting. So if you have a boat that's going, and then you have the wake that the boat creates, and if you put a small boat or some light, something light at the back of the boat, it will move because of these. So there is, essentially we have here is toroids forming around the flow. And they're dissipating, they're getting bigger as they dissipate. And you can see this bigger and getting dissipated in the crest, in the distance between the crest as the boat moves further. So so if you can think of it this way, so you have a smaller circles here, and it gets bigger with time because it's dissipating. And this is creating the flow in the little boat that you put behind the big boat. And the only thing is that these motion. So you have these motions. This motion is helping the flow. So you can think of this too. This is again the toroid, cross section of a toroid, and you have the flow. The same thing I drew before. And you have the toroid again. So there is a flow in this direction. So if we can sustain these toroids, and imagine this to be a spaceship, we have a lift. Or motion in any direction. In the case of the boat, it's a very good example of it. It's the phenomena we see it all the time. You can drop something behind your boat and it will follow your boat for a while. I mean, of course there is friction and it will stop. But this one. Somebody can test this principle in 2D using putting something behind a boat.
Well, you can see videos of people that do wakeboarding behind a boat.
Yes, wakeboarding, exactly. Okay, that's a good example.
And they don't need to have a line to the boat to, like a water skier necessarily. If somebody's good with a surfboard, they can surf behind somebody surfed behind one of the world-class ferries that goes from the mainland to the island that I live on. Somebody surfed behind one of those ferries one time as a stunt. So it's possible to do.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So do you surf, Rick?
I have experienced it, let's say. I'm not currently, I haven't done it for about 15 years or something.
So you have firsthand experience, so you know. See, I don't have any experience in this, and so, but this is
the power of a wave, though. Like if you're standing even up to your ankles and you feel that a wave from the ocean or a lake or whatever whap against your ankle, you definitely feel some force there, and you start to appreciate it. If you water ski or whatever, you start to work with those forces. And then of course with surfers, they really intimately get to know the power of the wave and where to approach it and where you will get crushed by it. And I've seen some waves come down on top of me and I just went, I've had it, I'm not going to make it through this one. And then go boom, and somehow you pop up off the other end. You go, wow, that was incredible. Even not surfing it, just surviving it is a major feat in itself, at least for someone like myself. But it is highly recommended to play in the surf if you can, and think of it in terms of plasmatic waves. Or if you think of the toroid, what dolphins do is they make toroid bubbles in water. Probably most of us have seen those videos, and beautiful water, air toroid bubbles that hover in the water because of the toroidal action of the spinning water, and encloses the air and makes it into this beautiful bubble. And dolphins like to play with it, and they'll pass it back and forth and kind of do tricks and everything.
So all we have to do is now create a controlled storm type of event, and then we have liftoff, like tornadoes or hurricane, and then we have the liftoff situation, and we just have to flip the boat the other way, going vertical. And then you have the wave. the same phenomenon, actually, the wake, but here we have it in 3D. And I'm sure you can generate a lot more force because, you know, the fluid has, water has a lot more inertia associated with it. Whereas in gaseous state, it's stronger. And I'm sure when we get out of gas into plasma, it's even stronger.
Yes, Tesla actually discussed that as in his flying machine. And he was to use a beam that would, or some sort of device that was to make the air as into a virtual rope of air, he called it. So it was as if or like a twisted rope in its effect. And he said he could hover, he would be able to hover positively without being influenced by the winds and without any wings or ailerons or propellers, and not with airbags either. So, and part of his invention involved 5 of his inventions to create lift, including a generator of high voltage and high frequency fields. He used 2 or 3 of his inventions to get to that point, and then use those fields to create specific conditions in order to achieve positive positioning. Said he had a stove-shaped apparatus and would be able to travel out of his New York apartment window and travel rapidly to visit anyone he wanted to. So that was kind of Tesla's big secret, because he didn't talk much about his flying machine, which was actually the focus of his whole life's work in a way.
So are some of his patents still classified?
Yeah, definitely. They were too hot for the public. So like a lot of his things were designed for military use, and his so-called death ray weapon, which might be part of this idea of creating a toroid or a rope, a twisted, you know, vortex of not air exactly, but particles at least. And that can be like, just like a iron cable, you can use that to create lift. Many of his things were, he gave out that patent for that so-called death ray, which is basically a particle beam, to 5 different countries at the time, so that it forced them to cooperate into technologies. And it was like Russia and US and Canada and I think two other countries. I forget. Germany was one, and I forget the other one. Possibly Japan or China. And he forced the countries to work together, mostly in secret, but to develop the technology, because he wouldn't give all of the secret to one country, because he knew they would try to dominate all of the world's wars and, you know, weapons and so on. But if you give part of the secret out to everyone, then they're forced to cooperate with each other to get anywhere with it, which is an interesting kind of conundrum. I think Mr. Keshe is a bit that way. He gives out his plans to all of the governments and forces them to cooperate to figure out, you know, like, how much have you guys figured out about this? Well, we have this and that. How much have you figured out? Well, let's get together and see if we can work this out. Anyway, carry on there, Ashfaq.
Okay, so now if we, I don't want to go too far into MAGRAV, but you can see the connection with the toroids we have in MAGRAV right here. because so if we have a toroid, the picture that I have, we have one directional flow, but we have to think in terms of both direction, both the gravitational and magnetical. And because we have in MagRav, we have something inside as well, which is going the other way. Now, I'm not going to just think of a toroid inside a toroid. Now, how do we use this to control fields? So what we can, if we, let's say that if we increase the blue field, we are going the blue direction. If we increase the green field, we are going in this direction. So we have acceleration and deceleration built into just a single MagRav coil. So you can go this way or that way, depending on which one is stronger or weaker. So we can, so if we increase the current, let's say in the blue coil, then we go in the blue direction. If we increase the current in the green coil, or we go in the green direction. So this is, and by balancing the two, you create hover effect. Make sense?
Somewhat, sure. I'll go with that.
So this is a very conceptual. I mean, I'm trying to be at the conceptual level right now. So what if you add an extra coil or 3 layers of MagRav? What that does, we have to work it out. But let's start with something simple. This far, I have worked it out, and there are a lot of friends here. We can all cooperate to work out further. But this, I haven't done the experiment, but I'm designing an experiment to test this out. I'm starting from something simple, and this is my goal, is to create this effect. And if I achieve a slight reduction in weight in either direction, that would, or movement in either direction, that would be interesting. But I'm at this point, and you can do it either with MagRav type of coil or reactor arrangement as well. So since I'm trying to use the reactor, I am going that way instead of the MagRav way. But this will also help me to understand MagRav by having these multiple layers as MagRav does. So I'll just leave it at this and let other people. Many of you are much more experienced in playing with MagRav. I have built MagRav once, and I haven't. That was like 3.5 years back. But I'm not yet doing the MagRav, but I'm trying to understand as much as possible and reproduce the same effects using reactors. So any comments, any ideas, any suggestion of how we can proceed? Everything is welcome. I'll stop here for the moment, and as I work it out more, I'll talk here.
Steven's had a few comments in the YouTube, and something about, so what if the center ring was big enough to allow for the third free ring? Not quite clear on that. Apparently he sent me a video before, but I'm not sure how to access that right now. Says it would form on its side, of course. Oh, on its side, another magnet in between, perhaps. Okay, so we're just gonna leave it at that. Just tease us at that, Mashfaq.
Well, it's a gradual process. We can't, I've talked about several concepts today at the very basic level. Let's try to have it clarified in our mind. The first one being the South Pole and the North Pole.
Yeah, it's a strange one.
Yeah, it's a strange one. I haven't gotten any definite. I looked at books and papers and everything, but nothing comes out anywhere. So anyway, so we have a very shaky, that foundation is rather shaky, that part. But once we subscribe to the idea that we have an entry point, we have a dipole, and by adjusting field, one of the poles of the dipole can be increased or decreased. And this is the fundamental idea, the idea of, you can read in papers and, even in Wikipedia about monopole, magnetic monopole. It's, theoretically it's conceivable, but, there are mathematical models and all sorts of things about this, but you don't need a monopole. What you need is a way to increase and decrease one of the poles of the dipole. And this is what we are really doing, controlling magnetical and gravitational. So the basic idea is that's what we are doing here. And these toroid, the one that I just showed, that you are increasing one side or the other. And I mean, if we understand this very well, we have motion, we can dump our engines in the car very easily. You have the brakes and the acceleration built into the whole thing. So this is, we don't have to fly even. Just putting this in the car, the arrangement that I just showed, is enough. And if we can control it with thought, imagine the possibilities. And that I also have done experimentally. I've verified that you can control these things with thoughts. So that's also doable. So, we have understanding in bits and pieces here and there. And so I'm trying to start from very basic stuff. And, now that we have the plasma, understanding of the plasma, and many of the old concepts like momentum, inertia, resistance, all of these can be worked out. The only part that I haven't worked out, and I'm sure some of you can work it out, is the inductance and capacitance, which actually dictates the, what do you call it, the pulsing or expansion and contraction, and that part I haven't quite. I know that we can use plasma capacitor to do it, so I haven't come up with an experiment where it can control LC, the inductance and the capacitance, to control the frequency or the expansion and contraction of fields. And this will come slowly, but one step at a time. But I'm just talking about some of the things I'm thinking and trying to see how we can do it with experiments. And anyway, any thoughts? I'm sure many of you can come up with many other brilliant ideas in terms of making this a reality, in terms of things we can do experimentally to verify.
Yeah, I'm working on detectors right now with the coils built into a test tube, so similar to the pain pen. So basically, my idea is to take the pain pen with its 2 or 3 coils, or 2 coils and a central pin, and you connect those coils and pin to a 1/8-inch phono plug. So you have a ground plus left and right channels coming from that stereo phono plug, and plug it into a computer and use the test tube as a test apparatus for fields and as a sensor. And so the idea is that when I'm playing with this, it hits me that there's at least 53 billion combinations of coils and nano coating and the way things are attached and different coatings and different ganses and different crystals and the way things are wrapped and twisted, and all of that is critical, as well as other components. that are added to the circuit. If you wish to get a circuit that's a detector, it's handy to have a diode and a capacitor at least, and maybe a resistor into the circuit as well as the coil, which is the inductor that you mentioned. So basically it's a plug-in test tube, or test tube, I call it. And it's a fun project, but it's not ready for prime time yet. I hope to have it ready for next week to be able to show it actually detecting some fields. I played around with this idea before. I'm trying to get into it in more depth, and it's a tricky one because I want to replace the components with, instead of a capacitor, a regular electrolytic capacitor or ceramic capacitor, then I'd like to use a plasmatic capacitor, but one with the same rough rating or range, so it will work in a plasmatic radio circuit, you could say. So we have plasmatic resistors, plasmatic capacitors, plasmatic diodes, and different ways to replace those three major parts that make up a radio type circuit. So that's kind of fun. And I discovered also in my travels in the last week or so that the human body has an equivalent in electrical terms. We have they say that the human body in the terms of electronic components, is equal to a 100 picofarad capacitor in series with a 1.5 kilo ohm resistor. In other words, a 1500 ohm resistor. So 100 picofarad capacitor plus a 1500 ohm resistor in series is the effect of our human body in a circuit, in a way. There's other effects too. It works as an antenna, it works as a transmitter, it works as a capacitor, resistor, you name it. The body is able to do just about everything. In fact, some people that have certain fillings in their teeth can pull in radio stations just from the acids in their mouth and working on the filling in the tooth in a certain way, and it acts just like a crystal radio circuit. So if anyone has some ideas and suggestions along those lines for circuits to be used for detecting and sensing fields, I'm open to suggestions that way. Be fun to
Hi,
discuss.
this is Lawrence.
Hi, Lawrence.
Thank you, Moshe, for this wonderful presentation. I've been thinking exactly in these same lines in terms of how this capacitance comes about and how this whole creation process works and who we are and who God is and how we are all equal and stuff. So I think I can add a little bit. I'm not complete yet, but I thought about these topics. So you know this sun symbol where you have the dot in the center and then you have a circle around. You know, we've been talking about how the planet has the magnetic field, the sun has a magnetic field, the whole creation has a magnetic field, even an atom has a magnetic field. And I think there should be some kind of universal symbol which signifies that it has a center, which is all equal, you know, the seed of the creation, the creator, it's herself or himself. And then we have an outer boundary, which is, say, the body of that creation or that being. And if we consider what Mr. Keshe has taught about these
Hey,
fields
Lawrence,
expand.
do you want to draw? Do you want to draw? Should I turn off my? It might be good for you to draw what you're talking about.
I have another client connected because I'm talking on the phone and I have my computer as usual. If Rick would be able to give that other client drawing access.
I'll just stop sharing mine.
Okay.
Where's your other one? Not seeing it in yet, Lawrence.
It should be the same name. Or isn't it visible? I'm leaving the meeting and rejoining with him. But the name should be the same. Connecting right now.
Okay, I see it, yeah. And you want me to do what with it too?
I would kindly ask to be able to draw or something.
Yeah, you should be able to annotate. Maybe there's something I have to.
Now at the moment, I only see meeting topic, host, invitation URL. So don't even see the screen. Like nothing is shared. On the phone, I see your face that you're talking.
Okay, well, I can. If you do you want to share a whiteboard? You want me to share a whiteboard, perhaps?
Oh yeah, now I see. Share whiteboard. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
See a blackboard.
Yeah, I don't know why it's a blackboard on my side. I really don't understand.
Yeah, I'm just seeing black. Huh, that's funny. Okay, let me make a whiteboard and you should be able to annotate on it then. Or maybe I just have to stop trying to share. Let me just try that. No, that didn't work either. Okay, let me just do the whiteboard.
Stop share. Okay. View options, annotate, and it turns black again.
Just a minute here. So does that not work for you? You're not seeing it there?
I'm seeing it. It's just simply black. I don't know. Each time I'm drawing, it's the same thing. It doesn't really matter. I'm trying to do something. Yes, I can draw.
Yeah, I can see the little scribble there, but
Okay. So it's the sun symbol. You all know it. It's the dot at the in the center, and then we have an outer boundary. This is the sun symbol as used in many cultures. It's what I perceive or I consider the soul in the center and the body as its container. It's the atom with its Coulomb area, or the Earth with the atmosphere, or the Earth as a surface. And then Mr. Keshe has taught us that the fields of the center, the creator, expand out, and we have the boundary of creation. Let's call it like this. It's another boundary somewhere at the very edge. It's another big circle. And we also know that we have different kinds of field lines coming from the center and expanding out. Oh, sorry, but I just see the black screen and I can't really tell what where I'm drawing to. And these field lines are going out to the center of the universe.
Change the color.
Yes,
not
yes,
using.
And then at the edge of the universe, they turn back and come back as gravitational to the center. And we also have the same field lines from the center going out and splashing black from the body to the center. So these are these two field lines. And Mr. Keshe has been teaching us about this setup with his usual drawing of two plasmas, two entities, and then the fields going out, coming in, and then again from the other side, going out, and then coming in. So basically, the two drawings next to each other are the same. You understand what I mean?
You mean the 8, the infinite 8?
Yes. The infinite 8, and the first drawing that I made was the dot in the center, the inner circle and the outer circle are basically the same things, the same concepts, but represented in different drawings. So what I want to say is that the inner core is what we see from the dot to the blue. I will try to draw it like this. No, found, sorry. This is the inner core. And then we have the outer core, which is basically everything else in creation. So since we are talking about the big plasma, we shouldn't be drawing these star-shaped lines, but we know that these are, say, filters. So we should think in multiple layers of circles, like if we had an onion. So the inner core is what we work on from our own soul to our body, to our own border. And the outer core is the whole creation, because everything that's created in terms of very soft fields inside ourselves and are expressed as magnetical are splashing back from the boundary of creation, because we are all the same, and basically we are working with the same principle as the creator is working, or we're working with the same fields as the creator is working, because it's one plasma. So all the fields that we create, as they splash back, create this capacitor, which is basically our body. So inside our body, we have the negative charge. I'm sorry, a little bit further down. Here we have negative charge. And on the other side, coming back from the creation, we have positive charge. Not very well visible, so let's redraw it. And basically, all creation is this negative and positive charge difference, a capacitor. Our body is a capacitor where the positive end is the whole nature, creation, whatever we see outside the material world, where we have, which is full of protons. And on the other side, on the alkaline side, is our soul. And whenever we do this, nano coating and GANs creation thing, we basically change where the boundary of that blue thing is. We are taking off blankets. So basically, we are increasing the access to that center negative alkaline creation thing.
Well, basically, this, okay, you always have the same structure. How is above is below. And it's the same. You have two cores, one in physicality, one in the plasma state, somewhere in the, where's the creator? Because you're connecting to your, this is what, it's an interpretation of each person. For me, I think I connect to my essence, my soul, which is at a higher level, and we are multidimensional beings. In this physicality, I have a soul in my body, which is connecting like the 8 infinite with my original self, somewhere where the ocean of the field is, which is my higher self. I'm talking with my vocabulary because I truly believe the star in the cosmos or in the plasma field could be an atom, could be my essence, my original one, but I am connected to there, and I'm here in physicality with my soul in my body, but I'm connected at the plasma field with my original one, which means when my soul was created and the plasma field has a core and is connected to me because the plasma coming into this physicality, and I create the fields like you're describing, and I create an infinite loop. But the moment I want to leave this physicality, I can leave and create another infinite loop in Zeus, because I'm still connected my infinite one, which is the knowledge, the knowing, the infinite information, but I'm able to travel and decide where I want to be. And you always creating the infinite loop wherever you want to go. But because we got disconnected and we didn't know about this information, we were completely like zombies.
I would say it's nothing has ever been disconnected, because everything is constantly as everything that exists.
Yeah, but you weren't using your full potential as who you are, and awareness and in information. Because I know you, even as a child, you probably look at the stars and you felt connected, but we weren't fully aware of who we were. And the whole point about this is to understand who we are and how we function, and that you are free to decide what you want to do. Or your soul, what your soul wants you to experience, That's another question. Is like, okay, if the soul, because according to the latest teaching, if we're supposed to be guided by the soul, okay, I supposed to experience what the soul want. I experience now physicality. My loop is here, my 8 infinite loop, and I supposed to learn something. Elevate the soul to complete the travel, the voyage, the experience here, and decide to go to another planet or another place somewhere.
The question here, to which soul you are connected?
Yes,
to
exactly.
Your essence. To your essence.
I think the point is, Mr. Keshe explained last time with this universal body enhancement unit, that we are basically now, when we are born into the atmosphere in the Coulomb barrier of the Earth. So basically, out of the many filters from the green line, from the edge of the universe, we have the galaxies, the solar system, then the Earth, etc. We have many filters through which that flashback is traveling, and
filters and information.
Yes,
information is because
And we are through our connection with the earth, because we're born on the earth, because the earth has an imbalance in some respect, we are taking on this imbalance in our bodies or in the environment that we live in. And I understood that through the body enhancement kit, we are going into a state or into an environment where we are very close to this edge of the creation, where the fields are still in pure state with very few filters on the matter level side. And I think this the balance of positive and negative, or how much of these filters we choose to
absorb,
believe in or work in or live in, depends on how much we live in harmony or in togetherness, in oneness with what we truly are. Because if we're all the same, that's what I wanted to say, is basically that we are also not only the same with other beings of the universe, but we're also the same with the creator and creation. And this is what I wanted to show you with this drawing and with the explanation, that the outer filters or the outer core of any system is basically the universe itself, the whole creation, and the inner core is what we have at our disposal within the boundary of our own body, or within the boundary of what we call that entity.
Lawrence,
With
one
the-
question.
with the-
Sorry,
Sorry.
Stella. Here in the plus and minus, which one is the plus, which one minus?
Plus is what we call the universe, the whole creation, what is outside of us. Minus is everything that's within ourselves, or within that entity that we are talking about. It could be an atom, it could be planet Earth, it could be the solar system, the sun, whatever.
But wouldn't be the ultimate cause, the experience is what you bring in the fields according to the field strengths?
Yes.
Wouldn't be information? Because after all, you as a soul, you elevate yourself through the fields, and that the field is exchange of fields, which is related in physicality at the human experience.
Basically, I think what we call human experience is already an identification with the outer boundary of the inner core. Whenever we consider basically the body, the first contact with that, what we call creation, when we go inside and we identify with the source, which is basically also the end, that little dot, which is basically the neutron, as Mr. Keshe usually says, the fields of the neutron, the principal fields, then we basically identify with what is the creator. Basically, this is the whole thing. I think the whole teachings will be going this way, that we somehow understand that we are one with the creator. We are basically the creator. This is why we're practicing these wishes, because the creator works also on wishes. He wishes something and it happens. Like, you know, these gurus or yogis who are in very deep meditation, and whenever what they think and feel happens with them. So this is
what I understand that, you know, I study architecture, right? And basically the composition or design of your inner core and how you interact with your other core, with the creator, you have the same structure of, you know, or functionality as how the universe works. So basically that's why we are all equal. Nobody has a hierarchy. And you have all these opportunities like the creator. You're free form in this universe to decide what you want to experience. And this is something we don't understand. because he, like Keshe says, we are trapped in physicality. Everybody, when they say I'm God, they imagine God as the powerful God. But in reality, you have the design, how your existence, you are like God, which is completely different. That's the ultimate possibility, multi-potentiality. You have no limitation. You are free. You have a choice to make. But that choice is the kind of quality of fields that you bring and you start to generate from the core, from in the center out. And you interact with other cores, or you interact with the soul of the creator, let's say, to create your infinite loop. Because I don't know, I mean, it's, let's say you go where you're born as a soul, you interact with your birth soul, could be the creator who creates you.
Yes,
You
the,
always
the
go
point
back
is
home.
the point is there is no difference between the creator and your soul on the soul level,
Right,
because we're all
right,
equal. So
right.
basically it's the same thing. And it's not only our soul, but any other thing that we see. Even a stone has a soul. So basically, even in the center of that stone, there is a soul which is the same as the creator, or in the center of the universe. It's the same.
Imagine if that loop is to your womb where you're born, you're connected to your mother, could be the creator, right? Your star, where you come from, your sun, where you come from, another core. And we always link it. It's like I'm linked to my kids or to my mom. And whatever happened is this unconditional love. You can talk to your mom, I think it's the same with that. That's why we have the infinite loop. No matter, no right, no wrong. We're always connected. Who cares if it's your soul or the creator's soul? It's your home, where you come from.
Think of all the
point is, sorry.
I was going to mention, you could think of all the hydrogens in our body, in the water and other materials. I think hydrogen is the most prevalent material. And where did that hydrogen come from? What was its source? Was it from this planet? Or perhaps was it created in a star somewhere in another universe, another galaxy, far, far away? So in a way, we're all star people, because that's where their parts came from.
Right.
So we must have a connection to every single atom in our bodies.
I would say more is plasma. It's at the plasma level, our essence. Home is somewhere there.
That's what the atoms are too. The atoms are plasma. Everything is just plasma, wound up magnetic fields. There is no particles actually. It's all illusion. All we're seeing is fields, the effect of fields, really.
Actually, it's information. I don't see it as an illusion. It's an information at the plasma level. We still don't, at least myself, I don't understand how it works, but it's information.
Well, I think we should go back to what Moshe was drawing, because if you think about it, Mr. Keshe always said we should go very humble, very soft, very fine, to the level where the creator is, yes, the effect of the creator is all the universe and the creation and everything that we see around, this splashback, this red line. But what the creator emits is the finest, most subtle, most humble fields, which are basically indetectable as they pass through the blue line to the boundary of creation where they splash back and then become gross and material and whatever we see as creation. And Moshfegh was drawing this this line, or the boat with the vortices around. And I think that blue line as a movement of energy and the red line as a movement of energy too, so both the magnetic and the gravitational, as they move, create vortices around. And those vortices are what we see as matter. And they are constantly being fed by those very, very subtle fields that we call the magnetical, that are an emanation of the fields of the creator. And in this respect, I can understand the concept of the flower of life, which Mario has been talking about, that there is every creature, anything, everything in creation has in its center that source of principle, which is basically the creator, so everything is emitting very subtle fields constantly. And those fields are interlocking with each other, intermixing with each other, creating new entities. So in that respect, I understand the principle of the flower of life, but I think the source of life is fields on such subtle level that they don't even interact until they splash back from the boundary of creation. So the blue line from the center of any soul, or the center of the creator or the creation, is basically so fine, so humble, so you can't give words to it. You can't imagine it because it's not on the level of what we can think of. This is why we have the commandments that you shouldn't make image of God, etc., because it's not intelligible. It's so humble, so deep, so there's no vibration to it. It's instant everywhere.
What was the name of that painter who wrote he painted? It's a French, I think it's Manet. He make these spirals of fields of energy in the sky. Do you know what I'm talking about?
You mean Van Gogh, who saw the ultraviolet spectrum and draw these barns and fields?
Yeah, and fields in the sky. And
yeah,
like
I think so.
Yeah, basically what you're describing is almost like that painting. Like everything it's a core of field rotating, and everything is a soul, and we are all dancing.
So I think to be able to understand more of what has been taught and what we think we know, we can link up, and this is why Mr. Keshe says we should work in groups, and he's supporting groups, because within a group we work like creation, where little small things come together to form something big. And like this, we can experience. Yes, we can experience our own inner negative, that negative charge within ourselves, that alkalinity better. And like this, like we can, from the outside, go into this universal body enhancement kit to go closer to the outer boundary, the green boundary in this drawing of creation, where the fields are still pure or stronger, if you want, as they splash back at the outer edge of creation. We can go within ourselves to go closer to that little blue dot in the center, which is the source, which is the one soul where we are all equal.
Well, I have to tell you, we keep looking outside when we have to look inside to our inner core. Because in my own experience, I notice the more I change, the people around me change. And instead to talk out and try to change people, that doesn't work. I change myself, and the way, instead to look at other people and try to correct them, let's say. I, like Caroline said, okay, no, just, like a wish. You see that it's done, it happened. Out of the blue, I see changes around me. So that's what, these are the little details, like you were describing, of the feels that I notice are real. It's like inward, a universe that is inside, it projects outside. In order to make the shift, it has to go inward and comes outward in physicality. I don't know how to explain it, but I know this is working. It's almost like if you want to, someone, a friend or a relative, you want to try to help them, it doesn't work talking or anything. I noticed by myself doing the change and even visualizing or wishing the other person seeing in a different state, I notice things change. So it's kind of, I don't know if you guys got the information what I tried to explain. It's like a loop.
Absolutely, sure. I've had experiences like that.
It's kind of interesting. You work inward, but then the outcome it's outside. Instead to go outside.
That's what the soul work's all about. Yeah.
So it's a mechanics that you really have to understand, to instead to waste energy, it feels, to maybe with a little, and I'm trying to understand what, like maybe that little very pure wish that it wasn't with so much energy, because it went inward in a very soft but pure, came outward, and it make a big change, because I didn't use too much energy.
Well, if you make the wish such that it is not a personal wish, in other words, if the wish is for the benefit of all beings everywhere, for example, then it takes it away from the personal. It's no longer, what use does an ego have for a wish that's for the benefit of all beings everywhere, and doesn't even mention itself in a way, because you have to include yourself as part of the all beings everywhere in that wish. And in a way, that's sort of a humble way to make a wish. It's for the benefit of all beings. And of course, it includes yourself, because you include yourself as part of all beings. But if you try to grab onto that wish for yourself, for a specific, result, well, that can kind of have a backlash effect and can be maybe not so good. So that's one way of sort of bypassing that.
But I think you can work even with a friend or where you work inward. It doesn't need to be all the people, but then you start to see the result even in that person or other people. It's like a domino effect.
Yeah, well, the idea with the wish that I mentioned is not about people at all. It's for all beings everywhere. And that's not about the physicality, that's about the soul beings and not just about the human ones either. Because we got to think about all the beings that are coexisting, even right in basically in front of our noses, in multiple dimensions, coexisting in various, space-time continuums that are happening at the same time as what we think is this reality.
Exactly. I think Rick is totally on the right track, because I think that there's a basic principle of creation, and this basic principle of creation says that the strongest fields are the humblest fields, or the those fields that are basically emitted, and because they are the strongest, is that they are traveling to the outer edge of creation and then splashing back from there. Whenever we want to create something which is universal, or whenever we wish something which goes beyond, then we have to work with these low fields, with the humblest fields. And yes, we can, and we are constantly working also on the material plane, because we have our body. So there are fields that are splashing back to maintain what we call this confirmation of existence. The body, the soul, expresses itself in form of the body. This is why I drew this small little magnetic and gravitational circle within the blue circle. But real creation, or action in line with creation, goes through the whole. It's this goes to the edge of the boundary and splashes back from there.
You think about it, like it came to mind when you mentioned that, the idea of what we call cosmic rays, which are they're very high, powerful rays, but they're so tiny wee that they're very, very hard to measure. They've had to go into have a huge pool underground, and oh, there's a tiny little flash. We caught it on camera. Yay! We actually captured a cosmic ray, and this kind of thing, or neutrinos. They are very, very high potency and can travel across the entire universe, but they also are tiny, tiny wee, and that's kind of, it's a contradiction in a way. You'd think something that could travel across the universe would have to be massive and big, but it's not the case at all.
Yeah, but and if you consider what Mr. Keshe usually says, that on the plasma level everything is instant, then there's not even the word that we call travel, because if it's instant, it's everywhere at once. So I think we should realize that through us being equal with everything, and through that being equal with what we call the creator or God, because we have the soul in the center, just like everything else, we have a huge responsibility in terms of response and action, responsibility. You understand?
Yeah.
Well, it's almost like, if you understand you're connected to everything, you can't go and stand up and step on a plant, because you're stepping on a soul, right? The moment you understand that the little plant is alive like you and sings like you. The other day, I listened to a recording of singing plants, and they were amazing. And the moment you know a group of flowers or trees, they're singing, you're not gonna go and break a branch.
You're right, but consider if you're floating in the air, you're still stepping on hydrogens and oxygens. They are all beings too. So is it better to step? Is it better to step?
No, it's all in your intention, because you can interact and collaborate and say, hey guys, I'm going for a fly with you, come with me, and you acknowledge the existence and you collaborate. And I think that's the hope.
If you elevate them as you go by your wish, then it's a plus, you know, it's a win-win situation, you could say. What plant wouldn't want to become part of a being like us? They're able to move horizontally and try that, as you know, and maybe go off into space and so on. Not too many plants get to experience that sort of thing, but certain plants might have that opportunity now in our environment.
I truly believe, you know, there is the kids movie, the Airbenders or something like that. They communicate with everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think we are like that. The moment you start to acknowledge everything and you interact and communicating at the soul level, you are the Airbender.
Well, that's right. That's right. That's what the shamans used to do, and some of the high priests and that kind of thing, until things got so corrupted and
well, that's the whole point. It's a religion. But if you are like this, like what's your name? You say with the accountability and responsibility, you would say, hello, hydrogen. Good morning. How you doing? You're interacting, you're communicating.
like
and you
Mr.
treat
Keshe in his reactor, when he one of the first videos long time ago that really struck me when I saw it. I went, wow. And he said, you know, it was in this interview, this Italian interviewer or something, and he happened to just mention, when I start my reactor, I pray to it. And he says, I pray to the entities in the reactor, and I say to them, I hope you're going to have as much fun with this as I am. And I just went, wow, what a brilliant prayer. You know, you're addressing these entities that are in the reactor. So you're acknowledging this is alive. It's got a soul. It's got stuff happening in there, not just one soul, but many souls in there, entities he talked about. And then you're blessing them, to elevate them, to encourage them to have, you know, to enjoy, to have fun with this process that was going to happen. And I just thought that was brilliant. It is so touching.
This is the whole point of these whole teachings, I think, because in the end, what we're doing, we're uncovering ourselves, because we have to understand, as he explained, was, you know, the captain of the spaceship who is directing the spaceship becomes one with it. It's basically our soul, the creator, the fields of the universe that are interacting through us. And this is why I also said last time that when we've been creating the Ganses and Maggrav unit or coils or whatever tools we've been creating, we've always already put ourselves, our fields into those creations. This is why I said that the Ganses are the first spaceships that we've been creating, because they emit light, they are floating with each other. So we need to understand how to uncover the blankets of fields, just like we did with the GANS process, within ourselves, so that what we call our soul, the universal principle field, can shine more stronger, because it already shines because we have a body, but you know, we can intensify this glow and make it spiritual, or whatever we may call it, or people used to call it earlier.
You know, the truth, I think we all somehow we knew all this, but we have the doubt because life wasn't in the way how you feel it was life about. And I think, Rick, you know me. I cannot, from the beginning, I talk about this, but I always doubt, like, I was wrong and the other ones was right. And I come to the conclusion, it is very simple. You need to allow yourself to be how you feel from inside. It's not complicated. You just open yourself to connect, to respect, to allow, not to control, to dialogue, not to react, and just to play. It's like a kid's play because accountability, responsibility, is being gentle and respectful, transparent, without forcing. Be yourself. No stress, no anxiety, just enjoying. And unfortunately, life, how was shown and how it's supposed to be school and work and all that is all stress. It's not who we are. And now we have the opportunity to live in a completely different way. Shine instead to be worried about it, instead to be stressful or in pain when distressed.
Can we not change any of those situations by just simply our attitude or our...
That's what I'm saying. If you really connect to who you are, you're a peaceful person and happy. You just need to open to your true essence. Because when you go to the garden and you start to observe that the grass is green and the tree, there are coming new leaves, and you go in detail, you forgot and you absorbing all these beautiful things outside. You're not hateful, you're not in a stressful mode. You just being yourself, curious, happy. Oh, wow, this is a new plant coming on, a new baby tree. And I see that in my garden. You're not thinking about the problems that the President Trump is trying to be impeached or whatever. You just being yourself in peace, happy, cruising around.
So why would we want to start to engage in, say, Trump's problems and all, politics, let's say? Why would we want to even think about politics if we're in that state of being in the, say, the Garden of Eden? There you are wandering around the Garden of Eden. Everything's really cool. And, suddenly maybe you hear a couple arguing about politics. Why would you not just stay in the garden, and why would it even bother you then?
Well, that's the interesting thing. Probably a year ago, or we don't have TV here, but in the olden days when we have TV, you look at the news, you get engaged on what's going on, and you don't even look at the tree. You were like, your attention was in things that weren't peaceful. But once you understand that feel of peace and relaxing looking nature, it's kind of like a magnet. You want to, like today, I can choose, no, I don't want to watch a movie. I want to be in the reactor group, you know. You choose because you experience the opposite side of the coin, you know.
Well, this comes to a point where it takes experience to go through this, and you know, it might take most of a lifetime to get to that point of recognizing the value of that, you know, being in that Garden of Eden, let's say, as compared to being engaged or identified or involved with the ordinary world and all of the stuff that goes with that.
Yeah, because if you didn't, you know, find Keshe foundation, you will still go in 8 to 5, come home, eat, watch a movie, and go to bed. Start again the next day. And I think that's the whole point of what the journey or the experience, that expansion or elevation of the soul is exactly about this. There is no right and no wrong, but going through the experience, you add more information and you change to a different position where you then comes the next position is even better than the one before.
Well, that's a good point. I think that we do move as souls, we move to the next best position, basically. I mean, we even do that as humans. People are moving all the time. They go, oh, this place sucks. I don't like it anymore. There's too much traffic here. Let's move to the other side of town.
Yeah,
the grass is greener on the other side of the mountain. You know,
or like Caroline said, suddenly you have, you know, a trauma or a difficult moment and you go to a different position, even though it was painful. But then you look back and say, wow, that was the best thing that happened to me.
Yeah, exactly. So from the soul perspective, it's just another position due to the last position. And it's all valuable to add to the knowledge, to the information, as you were mentioning.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Feels, you know, at the gravitational or magnetical, you know, they give you a field strength, but from the memory or the emotional and the mind is giving you information. Is it that data like a computer, you know? And so you getting the result of that field experience, a multi-level results, you know, could be physical results, emotional results, memory, mind result, knowledge, and field strength, you know.
And what one of those, or any of them, or all of them, would survive our passing in the physicality and might be more or less eternal, or more or less be able to be passed along into other lifetimes or other circumstances, I wonder.
That's why I'm saying, remember, like in classic physics, nothing finish, it just transform, you know, the energy. It's a constant. It's like the infinite loop we were looking in the graphic.
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking that when we pass, some things stay with Mother Earth, and some things seem to be able to be off on their own, like in the idea of the soul travel or soul spaceship, you could say, but on a more different level.
Okay, I'm bringing another question to the table. I don't know if you guys notice, sometimes you are in a specific subject, you know, and then you notice that you're talking to different people. Oh, I'm experiencing the same. Or couples that are having similar issues, you know, at the different stories, but then it's a common denominator subject.
Sometimes you get the names mixed up, and because it's the same story, and
Yeah.
Oops,
So
it's the other couple. Yeah.
So now I'm going back to the point that the other gentleman was talking about, the infinite loop. Okay, so we are all part of the creator, but then we are like little core fields, little mini core in this experience on the planet Earth physicality, where Rick is there, you know, Peggy, I, but we are experiencing similar subjects, but in a different kind of color, you know, because each story has a different variation. But if we start to talk about it, wow, yes, I learned this, I learned that, and we share experience. So that made me think about it. It's almost like if the creator sent all this little spark of light or plasma.
I was just gonna say, we think those things, but what does the creator think is more important? And
Well, that's
if it's one being, then the creator is experiencing all this stuff about the creation and getting feedback on it in a way, feedback loop.
But that's what I was trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why we all one. So what is about having tea by the river, and he has 50 different experience of having tea by the river, you know? So basically maybe planet Earth, Mother Earth she gets all this information from our own experience in here. Well, you were saying, you know, when we passing, what stays here? Well, maybe it's the experience. We take some and she keeps some. We share in that data. Like a library, you know?
That might be part of the whole DNA thing. That might be the physical manifestation of that library or RNA.
Plasma work and the feedback.
Yes, I would say we're all living a constant stream of wishes that we create reality with continuously. So the way reality is what we are wishing for each moment by moment all together, not only us as human beings, but the whole creation. And the feedback is what is creation, what we live in terms of our bodies and the earth as an environment, etc. And the point of understanding comes when we understand what we have been wishing and how we can change our wishes, and that we can change we can wish differently, and like this we will have a different world.
Good t-shirt. Wish differently.
That's our new slogan.
There used to be an Apple one. What was it? Think Different, I think it was called. You can wish different. That would be a good t-shirt. Wish different, period.
But considering what's your name? You just spoke.
My name is Lawrence.
It looks like Laurent, but it's Lawrence, the way it's pronounced, right?
Lawrence, I like what you said. And the interesting, you know, with all this information, it's been, I don't know how many years, but I start slowly to recognize how my wishes were manipulated or stolen. And they weren't my wishes. I was living the wishes of the desires of the outside. today, with my awareness and being in the moment, I decrete my wishes, like my command, which is the difference. It's a difference.
And
Different.
soon we will change the I to we. You know, universal council, group of people, you know,
Right.
we wish, we. It's I, but we at once.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been doing my little homework, actually.
Your homework. Tell us.
Yeah. Well, I kind of got into Twitter this year, and everybody were like, all the tweets are like people fighting and saying bad things. And the only thing I do is say positive things like our wishes. And it's working. And just saying positive, you know, is respond that the importance of integrity, respect, communication. I hope, to heal that imbalance. I wish you find your peace and instead to, just send good feels, break the wave. It's like seeing the, seeing the good things, saying the truth, wishing the truth. Stay on the right side of the road.
Okay, thank you, Stella. We've got Ursula who's had her hand up for a while. Maybe you'd like to go ahead, Ursula.
Hi everybody, it's Ursula. I was listening about all your sharing, so beautiful. I'm very happy, as I wrote down, to have now this beautiful Spanish. You see, support so helpful for me, because I wrote also we was not born in Argentina, and having both so different lives and having always this same maybe woman feeling also, because as we are mothers and we got our lives and professional one, different one, but the feeling is always the same. What she says is so powerful for me, so enhancing, because we are all in different situations, love situation or financial situation or professional situation, anywhere, and living other places, other languages, other ethos. I mean, but we are together, and this is the whole meaning of this teaching. When I was in Rome a few years ago at the first UC member meeting, it was said by Mr. Keshe. I heard he was 5 meters from me, that this is the soul school. Wow, this was very powerful, because this was what I was looking for. And so I started my studies. At the first time was very difficult, the coil and all these things, and magraphs I organized also workshop and everything. And from this time I have been moving 2 times, and always searching this uh, realization, this creation of what I wanted to do is autonomy, because I lost many things in my life, so I needed also to find another way to do, to live, to to have a house, to have a place, an oasis. So I created this oasis here in Provence. But I think my wish was accomplished. That's it. It's true. But now I'm moving. I'm moving through other situations, more calm, because this is a very big one. Uh, we can be here for knowledge seekers. They didn't come really yet, but it takes time. The oasis is ready now to take it over for some others, but will happen what it will happen. I know what I wish. I wish more quietness, more detachment from many things. I got many detachment here, and I want to go further in this, because when you look outside, you can have many situations, also administrations and governments, and now they want to put here something for the electricity who makes us much zombies. I mean, having many things in Europe, as you know, in France, is not a easy place now, as in England, as in so many other countries. I think they are the two worst, but okay, we are here, so we need to do with what we are here. So all these teachings, the soul teachings, so powerful that Estela can manifest so beautiful, and I congratulate her, and I thank very much all her intervention, because they are very strong for me, very helpful in my situation here. So we are driving together somewhere. We don't know exactly where and or how. We know where we are going, and we need to summarize all our background we got, because we have all one, technical or engineering or medical or water decontamination, whatever, but we are specialists of something, what we wish to do in our lives. For me, as naturopath, I wish to go more to nature, much more deeper as here. So this means also to go deeper in myself, um, because they are all the response. We are not alone. We are working together with our souls. We are driving through plasma fields. Wow, and sometimes very surprised about the results, because here in the oasis I apply everything I knew, everything I learned. I have never done agriculture, never, but I know that from there comes the good nutrition. When it's done with plasma, when it's done with all this love and this intention of health and of freedom. And I think very much also Gianni, he's also present, how he he got this, because he showed us the way with his kind of living, with his ethos from Romania. Doesn't matter from where it comes, we are the same. So here appears many knowledge seekers, also friends of mine who never know about the plasma science. They wanted to come to see many different cases. I'm making a resume now from these 6 first months, and wow, it was amazing. And you know, I wanted to create a health center, health school, and what I feel today, this was almost my own health center. I mean, we have all something to change in our lives. And this was a huge and big life-changing situation. Um, and it's going on, and now further for everybody. So we are thriving. We are going on to this beautiful one planet, one race, one nation, all together. And I wish that next year all this private teaching and public teaching also will have much more presence. Let's call this my dog. He got some troubles, but it's going better now. He's old, he has 11 years. He got a very good shock. Me also. So we are coming out of so many all kind of situations, and we are reaching it much more quicker as we expected in this moment. We has been working on the 300, and it's amazing the subscription, all this work done from this team. We wrote it yesterday also a little bit, and wow, it's powerful. We need to make it known for everybody what is happening. Many of us are on total other dimensions of consciousness. And when I'm looking around here with the population here around in Provence, my God, there's much to do, very much. But there are issues, there are opening doors. There are situations that even sometimes, if they are not very pleasant because of administration and whatever, and political, and okay, we are going through this. We are going, and we need quietness. We need peace. We need support, of course. All of us need support because we are nourishing each other with this support. Not only with nutrition, we need, of course, but the nutrition of soul, enhancing, uplifting situations, recognitions, peaceful moments, happy moments. Now is coming Christmas. So many of us have made families, the other have troubles. It's always a very hard situation. Here in France, for example, there are now not more trains. They are doing many things, and it happens sometimes that there has have any more trains or ways to come to their families. So they're creating many cows, as you know, everywhere. And in France is very good on this. So okay, we are thriving, and I'm very happy to thrive with all you together. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Ursula. Nice.
Rick, hi, it's Dean from the UK. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Dean.
Can I take off from where I left off last week?
Are you going to levitate?
I wish you could. Yeah, no, I'm going to share something with you.
Okay.
See if I can share it. It's saying again that I need to do something in my preferences, but I've allowed everything that I can see, so I don't know why it won't share it.
You're trying to share a picture or a video or something? Not your camera, right?
Yeah, just trying to share a picture, yeah. It usually works, but I don't know why all of a sudden it stopped working.
Okay, well, can you bring up the picture first, right? And then go to share.
I know all that, Rick. It's not that. That's not the problem. It just won't. It's suddenly going to a different screen where it won't share.
Okay, not sure here. Let me, maybe if I try to share something first, then it will kick it out of its mode. I'll try to share whiteboard and then back again. Stop the share and see if that gives you an opportunity.
Right, what it's saying is I've just ticked a box about Zoom, and it's basically saying that if I quit now, it's going to quit me. It's going to take me out of Zoom. So I may go silent for a little while. I'll come back in if that's all right.
Okay, that might be what you have to do to jumpstart it there. Yeah.
Okay, I'll leave you to it for a little while. Bye for now.
Okay. Okay, does anyone else have something that, oh, we've got something from Jedi that we can definitely fill in with here. Does anyone else have something they'd like to, you're looking forward to bringing up at this point? Otherwise, I will show what Jedi just put in the chat. But if you got something else that we got to get in right now, now's the time. We'll wait for Dean and have a look at what Jedi has to offer here. So let me get that lined up. Cymatic quantum fingerprints. All right.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Jedi. I was just going to ask if you want to set us up for this. What do you got going here?
Mosfec showed us this kind of configuration, or what he called atoms last, 2 weeks ago. So I made a kind of research, trying to find out where these kind of configurations appear. And so we have them here. You can see. This is by using equations, and it's just as following kind of fluxes, energy fluxes. And so you see the fingerprints, and all of these dots are in fact a resonant placing of energy, positive, negative, and all the colors. The axes are multiple. So you have not only a planar kind of a field, the image is planar, but you can see that there are oblique and diagonal ones. And all of them are places where you shall find a lot of energy. So it's like the box Keshe made some time ago, and where you have different potentials. And here you see the different potentials. And by connecting two of the dots, you have a greater energy flux than in another placement, which is non-resonant together with this image. So here you have a lot of atoms, let's call them atoms. And these are scalar kind of figures. You see there is a central dot and then the wave that is expanding, and it is participating with the other fields.
And very much, Jedi, like the picture we've seen recently of the tip of a needle under a very, very high microscope, electron microscope type image. And the platinum atoms, I think it was, we were looking at, looks very much like that.
Yes, it is. It's this kind of principle. It is applied in all dimensions. So if you go upwards and downwards, now to see this kind of image, I had to enlarge the picture. So to see it from, let's say, above. And then sometimes I had to reduce, and so to enter as a microscope. So you don't see them unless you change your point of view. And within consciousness, a point of view is by expanding your vision. And so by expanding or going into the detail, you shall find that somewhere, in some place, some area, you have the picture where you have resonance, you have equilibrium, you have all the figure is there, and there is order. Rather than what we usually see that it is chaotic, because we are looking for singularities. And so we want to say let's say I am the best, so it's the strongest of the dots. It's not like this. Here you see that they are all placed in a proper way, and there are plenty of them and different colors. So altogether, there is this, in the background, there is another figure, and this is another kind of field. That would be a magnetic, electric-magnetic kind of interference that is holding all this. And they are, if you consider the angles, then there is a study on this kind of shapes. They have to find out, because resonance happens in all the universe. So it's the key, it's the passage. That is the opening of the portal. If you are not following Dharma, which is resonance, you're not going to exit. You're not going to participate. You are missing all the dots, all the figures you have here. They all belong. Even if you think they are chaotic, like say in the central red one, above it there is a chaotic positioning of the dots. These are not really chaotic. It's just by looking at them from a different angle that you find out that the structure is there and it's holding. So these are quasi-crystals. And in fact, these are time crystals working. So it's only energy fluxes. If you want to play with atoms, then these are particles. You see particles, you see waves, you see scalar, you see fractal, you see these are quantum semantic, in fact, placement, positioning. So you should find energy, you should find your souls belong to this kind of image. Every dot, every center, that is a soul. And so it's expanding. It's like throwing a stone in the water. And so I made plenty of them to study, to find out what's happening, in fact. Because by looking at nature from a different point of view, let's say using equations sometimes, colors and renderings, graphics, this is into optics. I took photos of them on the water fields. So I have analogic kind of images of these, and these are in fact digitalized ones. But they're wonderful. So you can enter and exit from two of these holes. These are holes. So it's they become portals. And according to the study you want to follow now, if you center your attention upon what you may call particles, you have an atomist point of view. If you want to see it from a wave position, then you have to calculate all the fluxes. Then from a resonant point of view, you have to integrate at least 4 levels. So there is a fractal expression of changes, of equations that move, that transform, and there is the order that it is a universal kind of order where you have equilibrium, harmony. And so this is, you see the images are not perfect circles because the study requires lenses that bend the fields. In fact, there is a torsion field happening all the time. So our planar understanding misses this feminine principle of a rotation within a rotation. So roto translation, it's a planetary kind of orbital circles within circles, or spirals, let's say, vortices. Look at this one, it's like a little tiny heart. And so it's very interesting because you have all these shapes. But most of the time when you study them, they disappear. So it's not very easy to find them unless you visualize them in a proper way. Because with the digitalization of images, codecs, let's say that JPEG codec within a frame which is a Cartesian one, has transformed every image in boxes, in squares, and even CMOS or CCD captures only a square kind of vision. So all this cancels the analogic kind of vision you have of nature. So the true image is transformed into a virtual one, which is a tenth of the strength. It has no depth, well, a tiny one, and so we miss a lot of it, and it's even bad for our sight, because the eye tries to find out more information and looks for it, and it's out of focus and it finds only boxes. So MPEG-4 and other codecs do not really help our sight. Rather, they damage our senses. So you shall see, if you copy these images on your mobile phone and you enlarge or you reduce the images, you shall see that some of these dots and configurations appears or disappear according to the codec, the dimension of your screen, and your visualizer, because it's going to affect again the fields by reducing or expanding and introducing another equation. So it's like adding another field. So to understand this kind of issue, let's say, it's in the last pictures you shall find some kind of dream catchers or spirographs, and that is very, very easy to see them later on, because you shall see exactly what I mean. And if you move the image in your mobile phone upwards and downwards, you shall see the formation of waves and fields that are produced by this moving around the global, let's say, the total image. So that is like saying you have to move the magnet or something around it to produce an energy flux. And in fact, you shall see the fields moving. If it is a static one, it's in equilibrium, and so the image is there and you see it, the dots are there. But if you move it, these dots are going to animate. So even if it is a planar, you see the interaction of the waves, and you see the effect of them, and the generation, the creation of other images that are not present there, but they are formed by the, let's say, the interference in some way that is going to build up a different kind of structure or image that we miss because of our static point of view and our position. So we are into optics, but most of it is it's going to disappear or appear according to our level of consciousness or frame rate. if you are looking at an MPEG or a JPEG, is going to cancel it. So you should look for a kind of a raw picture of it. But still the CMOS is acting as an interference pattern. And so we would really need to study this from the optical point of view in liquids. And this is what in powder, Chladni used to do by using powder and vibrating it on a metal plate with a violin bow, or just going with the sound like this, and the shape of the image used to form. And we can do the same thing with, let's say, laser optics, by using a laser on the surface of the water and then letting it reflect on the ceiling or within a box on the CCD and capture the image that the water is generating, is forming. So all this is in fact the interaction of these kind of configurations. So our understanding from a Cartesian point of view is limited, because there is much more. It's like saying just the world is not flat, of course. So it's the point of view. So it's and this is going to appear. It's very clear. So it depends on the angle you are considering. And angles are in fact not fixed ones. They are dynamic. So they are oscillating all the time and moving crystalline. And so we have to consider even what we could call amorphous substance, not really amorphous, but there are places where you find expression of the crystalline, let's say, structure that is a strength, and areas where you don't find it. This is calculated within plastics. You buy a watch and you put it on your wrist 1,200 times, then it breaks. So they calculated very well this kind of you bend the metal, and then after a number of times it's going to break in two pieces. It's so it's a way to see things, because words can be used to say a lot, but if we miss the image, then once you see the image, it's there. It's much easier. So once you recognize them, then you shall find them in physics, in cymatics. You shall find them in mineralogy, in optics, all sciences. They can just see it from a different point of view, but it is a principle. So it's happening all the time. It's there. It's these dots. What do they mean? Well, at least from the kind of electric point of view, it's very easy. You get your box and you find where these dots are, and you place your electrodes, and if you have the maximum there, so you say, okay, I shall build my transformer or whatever, a rod and coil in this way, and I shall get the maximum of the energy. I do not need to transform it, because if I move to the next dot, I have the gradient. So you don't need a transformer. You just get what you need, where you can find it. So a box is a three-dimensional. Well, it could be a sphere or whatever. Once you understand the frame, the structure, the configuration. It's a way to, it's like saying, like geometrical kind of patterns. It's another way, because we could solve equations, and that is so distant. Whilst geometry, it's evident, self-evident. It's there in front of your eyes. So the attitude, because we need these equations to prove and to say, and there is a distance, but from a geometrical point of view, it's there. So please explain things in that. This is the easiest way you show, or nature shows. Even if I'm playing with equations, I force the shape to move, but well, I can do this from an artistic point of view, playing with images. And I even took a picture of a cake and transformed it just to find out, just to play with. But it's there. It's here you have the oblique one upwards there on the left. You have a kind of a different axis happening. We have a chakra configuration, so all on the straight line, or we have 5 or 6, sometimes 8, sometimes 16, with so according to the pattern, and this is what happens on the plate. So when you place them in a nano coating environment, but it has to follow, in fact, the structure of the element. So it shall follow the kind of configuration that the element, the crystals carry with them. So you shall see layers, multiple layers, 40,000 layers, but you shall still see these kind of dots appearing and fields interacting. It's another way to see things. Let's say we could consider the flower of life. It's a different way. Here we are going into complexity. In fact, gradients. We have thousands, millions of gradients, and the shape is continuously changing. This looks quite nice. And these the last ones. This is what I said. You can copy them on your mobile phone and move them. Here you see rings. You see the black rings. That is where you have the expansion. And sometimes you see the shape of the Tau forming. Other times you see the seed growing from the dot, from the central dot, if you move it upwards and downwards. And you feel this kind of vibration. It's vibrating. Whilst you move it, it's vibrating. It's flashing. So it's bizarre, but it's going to like this. It's shining. And the center, the white center, is much brighter than it is to our eyes, to our perception. But from the optical point of view, probably the strength is great. So this is by bending, and you see how you can bend fields and create these kind of images. So this is all. This is collapsing. It's falling down. Let's say it's a way to see things. Here you have plenty of black rings, plenty of them. But if you look at the let's say one of the squares up there, let's say on the left hand, you don't see them. But if you are looking at the center and you move your side view, then you see plenty of these rings, the black rings, plenty of them. So it is apparent and non-apparent at the same time. Yeah, it's very easy. You find 7 of them. That's right in front of you. So this is a static kind of configuration. It flashes on the sides. Yeah, when you move it upwards and downwards, it's sending energy on the right and the left hand side. And of course, this could be a kind of antenna. This could be a coil. So you can make a coil with this kind of shape. And so you have plenty of different kinds of devices you can produce, because all of these are resonant. In this case, there are multiple resonant forms at the same time. So it's like saying a chord. Here we should see something like 4 or 5 different levels at the same time.
Excellent, Jedi. Nice work.
Yes.
Jedi, hi, it's Dean here.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. Jedi, you just explained the last 35, 40 years of my adult creative digital life. Thank you very much.
Well, yes, we have to go backwards to understand and to go further. We have to go back to the spirograph. I mean, we were, a child that plays with this kind of game. And it's a wonderful one because you just add colors and it does it by itself. You just move it around. And this generates, this explains. But we miss it. It's a game and then it disappears. And then no one is making good use of it because of the lack of knowledge. And best way is to follow this key. I said it's a resonance, so it's a musical kind of key. Even in music we have sol, which is our we write music, the score, and it's based on this key, sol. You don't get it. I mean, it's there. It's in front of your eyes. So even if we say it's A, B, C, D, okay, but go back to the sol, and that's the key we are using. Sol and bass for the piano player. So There is a meaning. So it's playing, it's just playing, it's heart. And at the same time, if you see it from a, let's say, scientific point of view, because you want to understand what you are doing, then you find out, So every note would create a kind of field, this kind, every sound. Then within cymatics, things go a little more complex, because this modelization, let's say, this is a planar kind of rendering. Then when you add torque, you add curvature to the planar field, you obtain those shapes that you see in the Chladni plates. And so by adding more notes or higher frequencies, you obtain complex spheres. So going up with the frequencies, like saying 1,000,000 hertz, it would generate a creation that is incredible, because you have millions of configurations within it. Singularities, let's say. And at the same time, the picture, it is the picture of the 1,000,000 hertz image, which is a standard one in a kind of environment we live in. Let's say considering water, considering dust, considering matter, or within light, you would see the same kind of images. That's why I say it is a principle. You shall find them. It depends on the octave and the frame, the range you are considering, the spectrum. But you shall find them. If you enlarge or reduce, you see them.
Jedi,
Yeah.
did you saw the workshop 305?
Yes, I think so. Yes.
Did you pay attention when Mr. Keshe said plasma do not have frequency?
I am a musician, so let me share my vision with you from a graphical, let's say, point of view today, or musical point of view. We can use letters, and so we explain. We can use numbers, and we explain. We can use images. We can use plenty of different languages. And they all work. They all reach. So frequency or number, value, it's another language. So I accepted it. Even if you say it does not exist, it exists. It's even if you say I can explain it in another way, it exists just the same. So the particle exists, the wave exists. The fractal expression within the equation and the behavior of these waves exists. The quantum cymatic exists, and these are 4 levels, and they all coexist. It's not saying the particle is not there. The particle is there, you see it. And the wave is there, and the fractal is there, and the equation, if you are studying mathematics, okay, so it's in the mathematical form, this is the expression. In a geometrical form, this is the visualization. So it does exist because we created it, or we understood it in this kind of way. But then to say it does not exist, it's there. You just explain it. You know, when children ask a question, The father does not know the answer, and so he's just inventing. Then one day the child says, "Oh, well, that was not really very good, but okay." But that time he accepted it, and the father invented a possible interpretation. This is within history. This is within science. Every 20 years, they all went wrong, and now we have the answer. Every 20 years. So, come on. It's just, it exists. You just see it in a different way. I'm not saying let's all sing together and this choir we shall reach heaven. Oh, well, it is a possibility. But you have to be a singer and you have to know quite a few things. So it takes time. But if you consider Van Gogh spirals, and you see, because he had this problem, and so he could see ultraviolet light, and so he could express it in the blue kind of color, yellow and blue spirals in the sky, in the night sky. That is wonderful. It's his own expression of the universe, of the fields that go beyond, because it is the dream, and you see these a man and a woman, they are flying in the sky, so you understand it's a dream. Something is going somewhere else. I mean, it's the meaning of this, the feeling it gives.
Okay, let's get back to what was your point, Jalal, that you wanted to make there?
I think, Jedi, you explained it very well. Thank you. But there is one thing. Maybe this is the lie what we live in for all these thousands and thousands of years. And it should come to end.
What is the lie? What do you mean? What are you seeing?
Look, now you are Rick and Jedi. Rick have a voice and Jedi have a voice. Can Rick exist without this voice, or should have only this voice? If I hear this voice of Rick, that means Rick is Rick as a human, or this is fixed position? Is there another voice of Rick that I do not hear? When you taught your child, as you said, Jedi, it's not wrong, but if this child believe what you taught him, he will teach the same thing to his child, and his child teach the same thing to his child.
This is what happens all the time.
Yeah, and this is what we are saying. Maybe this is the lie what we are living in.
It is not a lie, it is ignorance.
Yeah, you can say so.
Yes, it's called avidya. It's something that we don't do it on purpose. We just don't know, so we give the explanation. We think it's Zeus, and so it's just lightning strikes, and then one day we find out that there are charges, there are electrical particles, the water moves, and etc. And so magnetics.
Or Jedi, maybe it is very easy to accept it, so we accept it.
So, well,
because
yeah,
because we do not need to do something for it.
Yes, he's angry. Yes, you have to do something. So you just sacrifice a goat or whatever, and then he was calm down. But you see, we do things because we believe, and that is again a misconception, but it is. We're not saying it's wrong. It's correct for a point of view for the time being, until we reach the a different position, and so we understand things in a different way, which is conscience it's enlarging, it's growing. So you reach this ignorance. You find a way to find out, rather than to understand it as other people try to explain. So there's something wrong. I want to see it. So you go there and you film it, and then you see in the movie, you see that you have a precursor. There's the lightning. It's coming out of the ground and it's reaching the sky before the other one leaves the clouds. So it's calling. It's calling. So it's the weaker that is calling the stronger, and then bang, it destroys, burns out the tree. So you have to see this to understand that it's not the stronger, that it's not falling, it's not Zeus. There is a weaker one below that is just saying, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. And it's calling the father. And then it falls down. And you see this, and you just get your camera, well, run away, just let it there and hope it doesn't strike the camera. But then you shall see this. It's a misconception because no one saw it. One day someone tries to film it, and then they find out. So there is another explanation, a new explanation. Well, no one saw it, so that is the problem. But it is ignorance. One has to find out, and the other ones, they go, okay, that's the way. Monkeys with salted potatoes. They saw one monkey putting these potatoes in the seawater and then eating it. And all the monkeys started eating salted potatoes. So it's not wrong. I mean, it has a different taste. So they said, okay, this is better. You have to see it. Why do they eat charcoal? Because they eat poisonous seeds. And if you don't eat charcoal, you're going to die. So you see these monkeys going next to the fire. And so it's getting this charcoal and it's eating it. All the teeth are black. And so it's, what's happening? I would never eat that. Oh, yes, you eat it. Active charcoal, let's say. It's against any kind of poison. And the element, what is it? Carbonium. So it's ignorance. So we follow. We follow. Indians, the horse was a hill, and so they send it in the fields, and the horse is going to eat 3 different kinds of herbs. And so they come back with these herbs and they give it to those that were not a very good health, and then they recover. And so they said, oh, well, the horse is a sacred animal because he knows and he teaches us how to cure. Of course, we forgot. The horse knows, so we follow. We understand. That's the frequency of the horse. That's the frequency that belongs to the horse, is understanding. So why do we need the understanding of the horse to make things a little better for us? It's a different language, but it still remembers, so we follow.
Yeah, but if we stay using these devices, our 5 devices, we will not achieve anything.
I said we own 50 senses and 50 subtle ones, so it's more than 100.
So we need to go from above the 5 and we go to this your 100.
Okay, next time I give you all the complete list of the first 50. So you have a lot of work to do, and that is entering your body from a, let's say, a scientific point of view. And so you shall feel, you shall understand and see things from a different way, because you shall use your senses, your functions.
Yes. Now you are talking. Now you are talking.
And this is ancient kind of culture, and so it is within yoga, etc. So these are doctrines. In the past, they used to center attention within. We center attention outside. We forget what's happening inside.
I do not. Jadai.
You do not. Most follow the mundane, let's say, the outer kind of.
No. You didn't understand what I mean. I do not what they said. Never. I do not want what the ancients said. I want what you experienced. You, as now, you have the science of the past, and now you know about the plasma and the teaching of Mr. Keshe. This is my interesting. This is what I want. So you give me what you experienced, not the others, what they're saying.
Why do you place the future in the future and you do not place the future in the past? Why do you think the teachings of the elders and the ancient have to be placed in the past and they are of a lower quality? Why do you believe?
No, it's not a low quality. Maybe you misunderstand what I'm saying.
Okay.
It lost Jedi.
It's the experience. And so if the experience within a constant state, and by writing down, by explaining, by creating a device, by giving shape to it, to this understanding, this language shall help you wherever and whenever you find some kind of testimony of this understanding, it shall help you. If you get Vemanika Shastra, Tesla read it. He made the fourth ship, anti-gravitational device. He made it, the fourth. But there are 27. 27 of them explained. So this means that we are still talking about the fourth. And there are 27 already. They made them. They used to fly. They went around. So why are we left here? Because probably we misunderstood something, or we did not take care of the teachings.
Or someone
misused
it.
Or someone hide it away. Yes, that is a possibility. If you hide away things, well, that's the consequence. It shall take us another 2,000 years, 5,000 years to reach again that level. And then what do? They go back again. They hide everything. They destroy it. They burn it down. Alexandria, what happened? And then where do these books go? Underground. Million of them. Millions.
Jedi.
Yeah.
You remember Egypt?
Yeah, exactly.
You remember all those obelisks and all these things? They have all the teachings written in stone. We still don't understand.
Well, yes, but we do not, let's say, own the keys, because all that was translated has to do with common knowledge, but the important, let's say, bits of it, papyrus, etc., they're somewhere else. Every time you find out that within a knowledge, what you can say of the past and what it is, let's say, it's classified. It's classified. So we shall not see these until the end of, let's say,
You remember the plasmatic teaching where he had this helmet and he said we could transfer knowledge like in the Matrix. I want to know Kung Fu, you know?
Yes, yes.
I think we all have the capability of accessing those Akashic records, those magnetic fields, which are basically the memory of the whole creation, the universe. And it's not about if it's written down or not, because any tool that we use, outside tool, is basically a means of uncovering the fields that we have inside, because it's our soul that's getting access to those universal fields and the universal understanding and memory. And I have a little story because, you know, we're talking about the ancients, and I wanted to clarify this based on my understanding. We are now the 4th generation of beings on Earth. I think in the previous generations, just like Mr. Keshe explained with Noah, who's got the teachings of how to create a spaceship and bring people and you know, DNA and stuff like this on board. Even previous generations of beings on Earth, the first humanity, the second, the third, and now the 4th is also being taught how to access and work with plasma. And I think when we are now talking, for example, about, you know, those bad reptilians or the Greys or all the people and aliens who we should supposedly be afraid of, I think we should think of all of these people, because Mr. Keshe explained you can't enter anyone else's spaceship because you can't, because the fields are not matching. I think we should think about all of these who we call aliens as our predecessors, who at some times were so intelligent and advanced that they were able to leave Earth, go out into space, survive the cataclysm that happened on Earth that erased all the memory of the high civilization and advanced knowledge and all this understanding of plasma that may have remained on the surface of Earth. And then now they are coming back and teaching or helping the remaining people who are slowly starting to remember technologies again and advancing in the form of civilization. So basically, because you can't enter anyone else's spaceship, because you can't fit into it, because the fields don't match, anyone who we see here as being or operating got to have a seed of this spaceship, what we call Mother Earth. So when we go back into these Hindu teachings where the gods were fighting, etc., where we mistakenly took highly advanced offsprings of Earth who left and came back like Gilgamesh many thousands or millions years later in our own human, you know, perspective, or Earth's perspective, millions years later, with the high knowledge that they learned while being here on Earth, we mistakenly took them for gods. And, you know, we started bowing and, you know, do all these rituals and created statues and all the craziest things that humans like to do. And I think the reason why we are now here is because we haven't understood or experienced this basic principle of creation, that we're all equal, the highest and the lowest. And like this, if we experience it on this plasmatic level, as we are talking about it, then that's the end of the present civilization, and then the golden age will start on Earth and the universe, because, you know, any wish that we do here is affecting anything around. Do you understand what I was bubbling about?
Yes. It's okay. It's good. It's in line. It's in line with the knowledge. It works. say no dimensionals. No one talks about this kind of entities. In the past, we used to deal with them. Now they give you drugs, so forget. We are moving towards space and a matter state. Again, another, let's say, not a mistake. Misunderstanding, okay, practice it, try it. There are different ways. I'm not saying one is better than the other. Your way. Do it as you wish. If you reach, okay, I reached it. How did you? Oh, motorbike, airplane, helicopter, whatever. Any instrument is a good instrument. If you are a musician, you can play it. Even ivy, leaf. It's very simple, but at the same time, you have to master that kind of instrument and to express and to reach. And if you are able to share it, it is existing, you reach it, and you have the experience, and you share the experience.
Well, yes, and the mastery now in form of instrument of the soul is the body. You know, body is the temple. So we have to learn to play with our body as an expression.
The soul is the temple. The body is the shape, is the form. The form is non-eternal. The form, we have a muta forma. Persona is sound. It's just a temporary, momentary shape. The temple is the soul. Now we went wrong because we built temples and we used stones because we wanted to express the concept of eternity. The soul is eternal. Stones are non-eternal. Stones just sand. It's sand. It's melting. So it's, the body is not the key. It's the way to understand. It's the instrument that you are playing.
Yes, but you understand what Mr. Keshe has been teaching, that whenever we create from the nano, the ganses, and then the fields, out of those fields, we create souls. Basically, those ganses are souls already. So
souls are already there.
Even
you
the
are
ganses
only
that we
manifesting a coagula, an alchemical coagula of something that is already existing. We are not God. We are helping a structure to form.
Yes, but where's the difference if we're all equal? Why is God different from us? Why do you believe it's different? We have the same creative potential within ourselves, which we call the soul. Mastery of the soul, as you say, is then also mastery of the body. How are we going to, switch these spacesuits that we call body to another spacesuit in another environment? Will we not be called gods in that environment if there are also people like humanity has been?
Yes.
And say that a soul has arrived, like in Capex on a beam of light, and then suddenly there is someone. How? I mean, if there's been talks about what has been shown in the conferences out of these empty boxes of the universe. Mr. Keshe has been talking about these things that with a wish you can grow a tree. You understand what I mean?
Yes.
So the same thing happens with our own bodies. If we are master of creation, master of our own souls and our beings, that we can don a spacesuit in a specific environment wherever we want, whenever we want. That's the point of teleportation, what he's been talking about, that you relocate your soul to another place, and there in that place, within a second, within a glimpse of the eye, you have the appropriate spacesuit for that environment.
You are not moving your physicality, you are moving
Yes,
your
you're moving the soul. But the soul expresses itself in that environment in form of a body, because that's what we call body is the spacesuit, the cooling barrier.
It is the right density there. Yes, it is the right density there. So you go in a kind of environment where matter state is compared to etheric or astral. And so you exit this kind of portion and you enter the other dimension, and that is your body. But your physical is still here. So at the same time, you are living in different portions, different harmonics at the same time.
Yes, I also agree with this multipolar personality approach, that we as a soul can have expressions, multiple expressions in different bodies at different locations. But let's stick, for example, with the singularity, or was what we usually see as being at the moment, that you have the Buddhist monk sitting in meditation, and within the blink of the eye he disappears, and then he appears at some other place. I think that's the kind of operation that we should first learn, as a beginner. And then we maybe also can have multiple appearances, like different masters did in different times, and they were teaching at
from a physical point of view. When you see a master that plays with bilocation, or it becomes invisible, it appears somewhere else, etc. Now the teaching said that you should not practice this kind of foolish thing, because you are damaging your body, and because you are forcing the siddhi to be used in a kind of a way that is creating and giving birth to all sorts of thoughts, powers, etc. That is the wrong attitude. So you shall not see the master disappear, but you shall see the master meditate whilst he's doing all his work, and nothing is happening. Nothing apparent is happening. But the teachings, they say, once you practice this and you want to use the power of this kind of thing, and then you want to show off, that moment there, you become a fallen angel. And that is your destiny. So forget it. You're not going to fly.
I don't want to be rude, but if you say you become a fallen angel, if you show powers, go back to what Christ did. After 3 days, he came back and had a body. Is he a fallen angel in your context then? I think once it's, well, back to the morning's teachings, if we think about it, if we can distinguish between what's selfish and between what's universally good in terms of wishes.
Don't you think that a master that is able to master his powers is playing with vanity when he disappears? Don't you think that he is playing with vanity?
I don't know. Well, we're just talking about abstract things. The question is,
wait a minute, you guys. We're both talking about abstract things here. Neither one of you are practicing disappearing very well, but we are able to bilocate to several different platforms at the same time right now. In effect, we're going to, live stream and YouTube and Zoom and all these different channels at the same time. We have virtual representations in all of these different streams, not just a single face-to-face to another physicality like in the old days. So we actually are gods in many ways, that we're able to literally right now, our voice can be heard by thousands of people, even though I'm sitting in a room by myself in a remote location. It's a bit of a modern miracle in a way. But I would like to kind of get things wrapped up here now. We're coming up on many hours, and we're kind of getting diverged in our conversation here. So I think I'd like to get things sort of back under sort of just kind of wrap up our topics and our points, and
Rick,
in
it's
the
Dean
next
again.
10 minutes
Can
or
I
so.
ask a quick question?
Yeah.
So these guys are talking about all these wonderful things, and it's the sort of knowledge that I've been experiencing for quite some time. But no one answers the question, what's the key?
What's the key to what?
What's the key to this, everything that we're talking about, that we want to experience, that the masters have so
What do you want to what is it you want to experience? What do you mean everything that everybody, you want to experience everything that everybody's ever experienced, or what do you mean?
I didn't explain
exactly?
that very well. No, so
No.
I want to experience, or I think we want to experience.
What do you mean by we?
Right, then
say I so that I know what you're talking about, because you keep saying we and you include me, and I don't know what you mean then.
I would like to experience, Rick, an ability to go to other places, go to other planets, go to the universe. And I know I've done it before, but in this physical body right now, we're not finding that.
We're not?
I am not.
Okay, you are not. All right, now we have the source of the problem. Not we, but you are having a problem with that, because others are doing it. Believe me, I know others are doing it. It's not that big an issue. You just said that you did it. What's stopping you now? So there's something stopping you. Something you.
That's what I'm asking you. What's the key?
No, it's you need to talk about your key. What happened to you that stopped you from doing it? You said you were doing it at one point. You were able to travel. Why? What took away your key? Who took away your car keys to travel?
I'll tell you exactly when I was born. When I was given a physical body again, that's when it stopped.
You were traveling fine until you were born. Well, that's a part of the problems of being a Voyager. You selected this birth and this lifetime. Now you got to deal with it. It's part of the package. It's the part of the agreement, as Carolina talked about earlier yesterday. The agreement between the soul, the physicality, and the soul, and it's it's like that's why we don't commit suicide, because we have that agreement to take care of each other right to the end, and then there's a separation. It's part of the deal, and part of the deal is we don't remember why the heck. What was it that was so attractive that got us here in the first place? Why did we want to leave where we were? Well, it may be that hanging out in eternity might not be as dreamlike as we thought it was, or something like that. Who knows? Or we either attracted to something in this level, or we were repelled by something on another level, or fell down from a higher place, or there's lots of different reasonings on that, and reasons for those kinds of things.
Well, I would say it's
Rick, so that I could actually have a conversation with you, because obviously at some point I decided to come here and talk with you, as I am doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that was the whole point.
May I interrupt? Sorry, guys.
Yeah, go ahead, Joseph.
My opinion is that humanity don't need this or is not ready for these functions. One key point is detachment. If you are fully detached from matter state, it goes further. But we are here to help humanity. So most of us that had disabilities in former lives in another time, we are not showing them. Why? Because we don't want to get the next guru. Because the people that are not ready would give us their energy because they want to be like us. That's not the right way. So we are here all under this sky. And we have to respect it. And we need to help humanity where they are. And until humanity is not most of the humans are at this point, we can't show it, even we could. That's my opinion. That's the respect to humanity.
Yeah, I agree with that point. That sounds, completely right to me. I can understand where you're coming from on that. That's a very valid position. Hopefully, humanity will get to a point very soon where it understands it needs to evolve. Very soon. Because through these teachings, you come to understand that it is time to move on. It is time that humanity took that leap. Hopefully they will.
Alrighty, thank you. Any more comments from anyone?
Hello.
Hello, go ahead.
Hi there, it's Jamon. I just had a off the topic question. If it's time for it, I can go ahead. If you agree.
What would you like to get into?
Just a question off topic. It's I want to ask if from everyone, if anybody has a guidance for me for the aquarium glue to make the deuterium GANs. If anybody knows that, which one of the silicone that is they glue the glass together, the clear one there is, and then the dark one. Do we know if any of them is non-carbon type of silicone or glue? That's my question, because I don't know where to find out which is which, and there is on Keshe Wiki it mentions that should be non-carbon glue glass container. So
I'm not sure about that. I know that Mr. Keshe used what was it? I think it was bathroom silicone seal, caulking on his vacuum chambers to seal off the vacuum.
So that is, do you think the silicone is non-carbon based?
Well, I'm not clear on that. That was a different kind of reactor that he was working with, and I'm not sure. I'd have to look it up in Wikipedia or somewhere that would have more about that. I think there's different aquarium cements that are available.
I am at the place where they sell it, and I've been shopping for it. And they have two different kinds. They have the one that is like clear bathroom silicone, the clear one that they put the glass side of the glass together. And then there is the one that is, I remember from my childhood that the aquariums was made from, is like dark black looking silicone again, that they put the glass together. So I was wondering if anybody knows about this, which one, or I just have to stick to a glass with no gluing together, like a ball of glass or something like that,
right.
like a dish.
Yeah, good point. That might, if it does have carbon, you might pull it out of the material and weaken the joint in the glass where the glass meets.
Yes. All right. I'll stay off the line, but thank you, everyone.
We can keep that question open, and maybe someone will come up with the answer. Or you could put it in the Golden Age of GANs as a handy place for that kind of question.
Okay.
Because a lot of people do have experience with both the deuterium and with GANs there. It's kind of their specialty. So that's another idea.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything they want to put in here?
Rick, it's Dean again. I can tell you about an experience I had a little while ago where I made a star formation, and I made it out of just plastic balls. And I filled those plastic balls with GANs, and I put some amino acids in them. And I placed them, and this is after a little while, because I'd had them in a box for quite a time. And I placed them in a star formation around my bed. And above my bed, there's an attic door. So I went up into the attic door and I put one of the balls up in the attic. And they're actually like deodorant balls. They come out of a deodorant container. And the lid of the container, actually, I put the balls in the lid. So they're sat in like a container. See, they can't just jump out. And I left these balls there around the bed for, I don't know, a week or so. And then other things happened and I forgot about them. And I was in a heightened awareness state at that time. Anyway, I went up into the attic for some unknown reason. And then I suddenly realized, I suddenly come across one of the containers and the ball in the attic was missing. And I searched the attic everywhere I could possibly look. And when I took it apart, and I could not find that ball. Now, these balls were not motors, they were plastic balls. There was no motors involved at all. But up to this day, I still cannot find that ball. So I just, just share that with you guys, just so you, there's a position that I know this has happened with motors with other people, but I've managed to achieve it. I think I've managed to achieve it with no motors.
Yeah, it's quite possible. People have had some odd experiences that way, especially with the rotating ones. But Mario has a story about that, and Armin as well.
Yeah, it's a strange thing, but it's a physical thing with a spiritual, everything you've been speaking about today, all entwined. So it's something to think about.
Yep, it's all connected.
It's all connected.
Alrighty, I think I'm going to wrap up for today, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank everyone for participating and sharing your stories and experiences here in the Keshe Plasma Reactor Group. It's become quite a thing in a way as we move away from more and more from the physicality experiments and get into more of the psychology and perspective and consciousness aspects of the technology. Yes, indeed. Thanks everyone for all the wonderful input. And we look forward to another Keshe Plasma Reactor Group next week. I'll continue, whereas the normal private teachings will be closed for the next few weeks until January 13th, I think it is. And we'll still continue with the Knowledge Seekers Workshop on Thursdays.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you too. Thanks to everyone here for being here, and appreciate your presence in the Keshe Plasma Reactor Group for Wednesday, December 11th, 2019. All right, I'm just going to shut it down here and see you next time around.
Thank you, Rick.